what do we do with that? That's
My understanding is Golden Ray is submitted at this point for decision. The written comment period expired the 10 days, so I think that one is in the decision process now as well.
once we open, if you can guide us through that.
That actually, Harley, that was just my mistake. That shouldn't even be on the agenda, okay? That's why we put no public comment. We wanted the public to all of a sudden not say, oh, it disappeared, what happened? So we left it there and put no public comment, and when we started the meeting, I was going to explain to the public what had happened.
Okay.
And it was my error.
So we'll open, and then Mary Ellen, if you can explain it.
Yes.
And then we'll, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We're going to the second part of the town board meeting, and that is the agenda itself. We just had the public hearing for BMG LLC, the proposed member LLC member entity disclosure, as well as Congregation Benign Loser, also known as Far Edge. We have a quick announcement by our town clerk, Mary Ellen, regarding Golden Ray LLC. Mary Ellen.
Okay, yes, I just want the public to be aware that this was my mistake. I told Christine that Golden Ray was supposed to be on the agenda this evening for continuation, and I was wrong after we reviewed the minutes and the transcript and the video. We confirmed that Golden Ray's public hearing had been closed, and the error lied with that, and we left it on the agenda so no one said, whoa, what happened to it? We just put it there that there's no public hearing. So again, it was my error, and I apologize, but that hearing is closed and will not be heard tonight.
Thank you. We had our Pledge of Allegiance, and unless the board feels as though there should be a second, we will continue with the approval of the minutes for June 9th, 2016.
Motion to approve the June 9th minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. We have.
Maybe motion that we set the calendar as posted on the website and in the package in the interest of time so we can move forward.
Second that. Call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
We have also a audit workshop scheduled for the purpose of discussion. This would be the audit workshop for the Connors and Davies that had been conducted in a few months ago. This would be for a time to set it. Obviously, it's open to the public. We have it at 6:30. If that's not a convenient time, we can do whatever the board feels is convenient for themselves as well as for the public to attend.
Well, I had spoken to Nick DeSantis from O'Connor Davies. They're coming from another workshop that evening, which I believe he said begins at 4 o'clock and he should be done with at 5:36. So if we set it for 6:30, I think it might be a little too early, so if we set it for 7, it might be more conducive to no one being late. So I will make the motion that, and this was at their request, I just called to follow up on the status of the audit. I'd like to make a motion that on 7 o'clock, Monday, August 15th, we convene for a workshop for the discussion with O'Connor Davies on the audit for the town of Monroe.
Second.
Call the question.
I've got a question then. Is there any way we've done in some other meetings where we could do any other town business that's pressing? Is that something we might want to make a motion for as a board?
I would personally say we just do this and.
If you could pay the bills, it would be good.
So what?
Bills on that day. That night.
So we would have to say that we'd have to be able to take care of some town business if needed, and then we can pay the bills.
Well, then it's not a workshop, it's a meeting.
But it's still a public meeting, right?
No, it's public,
It's
but
a
not
public meeting, but no comment.
No comment as far as,
No comment. No comment.
plenty of meetings we've had no comment.
No, but it's a workshop, so people can't comment on the topic.
But we've had plenty of meetings here where we run so late we don't have public comment.
Well, not when we were here, maybe last year.
No, this year, too. Absolutely. There's no meetings where we had no public comment.
We didn't have any comment because there was nobody left.
That may be the case.
But this-
Right, so I'm just
In
asking-
the morning, who's gonna be commenting?
But Rick, in this case, there would be people.
I'm just asking if the board wanna do it.
In this case, there would be people, and then
Listen, I think this is gonna be very involved, I think we're gonna wanna take the time to do it correctly. The public is more than welcome to comment on it at the next regularly scheduled meeting, as they are welcome to comment about anything. But I think that night, we should keep that, narrowly focused on the audit and what needs to be done.
Okay.
If emergencies should come up, like we wanna announce when we're gonna do our meeting for, to decide these,
All right.
the LC, not the LC, the moratorium hardship date, then that's fine. But I mean, I think this is
I'm fine, whatever.
something we should devote our attention to.
Good.
Vice Chair Andresi?
I just had a question about the
Follow
workshop.
me.
I thought it was that you were looking for input into when, that's what a workshop's about. Not about a million other things, but specifically what that workshop was, whatever the particular topic was. So if they're looking at traffic, ideas, that you went there and you can give suggestions, for example. I thought that's what a workshop was.
Well, you can give suggestions at the next meeting.
No, but I didn't, so a workshop, they don't want input, that's what I'm asking.
No, Mr.,
No,
this is for the
input
audit.
from,
No, I get that, I'm just asking for the future, just, I thought you said there's no comment on at a
no
workshop.
public comments.
At public workshops.
But Mr. McGinn has indicated support for public comment. Okay?
That's not.
No, I'm saying that there is no public comment. This is a workshop session for the board. It is open to the public, so it's clear and transparent, and everyone knows what we're discussing with the accountants. However, it's not a public input meeting. It's just for us.
You did say that they could make a public comment at the next town board meeting.
Yes, and at the next town board meeting, of course, you're more than welcome to make comments, as always.
Within 3 minutes.
Why is the public allowed to make comments at the workshop on the budget?
I guess that's at the pleasure of the board.
What?
I guess that's at the pleasure of the board.
How is it any different? I mean, if we have a comment to make, and the auditors aren't there the next month, you can't explain it.
The process is that it's for the board to discuss the results of the audit with the auditors. They're not there to answer the questions from members of the public. That's just the way it is. And for us to get the business done that we need to do, that's the best way to do it. No, it's not to limit your public comment. Again, you can do it
You have a
again.
precedent that for years, the workshops on the budget were open.
Mr. Goldstein, I will give you my cell phone number that night. If you have a question you would like me to ask, text it to me, and I will be happy to ask it.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Goldstein, I think you might, when you're talking about the budget workshops, I understand what you're saying. When Dan Berg and I did the workshops for chapter 57, we had back and forth with the public also, so I understand where the confusion comes from. But on this one, I guess the way the board wants to do it is just not to have the public comment this time. I guess, that's the way we want to do it?
That's it.
I would like to
All right.
expedite the process with the accounting firm.
Moving right
Okay.
along. What's up next?
Make it count. I just have one public announcement I want to bring up, and I've been putting this off for months because we always have a big agenda, and I don't think we're ever not going to have one. So, I'm just going to mention briefly that the thing I always talk about with the Odyssey of the Mind for the Monroe-Woodbury School District, that 4 Monroe-Woodbury Odyssey teams won their regional competition and went on to compete at the 37th Annual New York State Odyssey of the Mind Tournament in Binghamton, New York, this past April. All teams proudly represented themselves, our school, and our community as they impressed the judges with their teamwork, creativity, and perseverance. I'll just read the results quickly. The first team, which placed 6th at the States, coaches Lindsay Rowe and Nicole Bossi, coached the North Main Street School, the elementary school. If I butcher the names, I apologize. Chase Cassidy, Alvin Jaskowski, Isabel Wolgamuth, Leanne Fernandez, Amara Leitner, Jillian Hinkleman, Marcus Leitner were members of the team. The next team placed 5th at the States. Coach Donna Wetstein coached his high school team. William Carter, Cameron Stella, Brendan Fernandez, Amy Sullivan, Kahitan Leitner, Matthew Yoon, and Katrina Paredes were on the team. The next 2 MW teams, the last 2, are from the middle school, and they moved on to the World Finals in Ames, Iowa in May. This team coached by Joanne McInerney, who placed 4th out of 58 teams in girls, which is outstanding. Megan Buckley, Alina Kelly, Brian Whitfield, Colin Davidson, Fiona Lakener, Lydia Davidson, Colin McHugh were members of that team. Coach McInerney has been coaching for 7 years. She's led state 6 times and World Finals 4. Outstanding. Finally, we have a team coached by Jessica Hutter, who placed 19 out of 62 at Worlds. Team members Cameron Adams, Alyssa Kamara, Simran Arneha, Jack Graylick, Alexi Burgess, Alessandro Day, and Aiden Burgess. Coach Hutter is an impressive addition to the staff, as she has only been with Odyssey for 2 years now and has already taken the team to World Finals and scored in the top 30% in the entire World Finals, which is actually an international competition. They have teams from other countries come, and it's really very impressive. If you ever get a chance to attend the Orange County end of it in Goshen, you really would be very impressed with what the students and the teachers do. And it's Binghamton's great, and the World's is even more impressive. And Monroe's done an outstanding job throughout. So thanks, and I want to congratulate the team.
Thank you, Jerry. We need 2 things on special orders. We need a resolution to pay the bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
We need any budgetary transfers or amendments. Moving on to privilege of the floor. We have an opportunity. Please come up if you'd like to speak now.
Mary Bingham?
Good evening, Supervisor and Town Board members. I'm coming up at the earlier part of the meeting because I think letter U under new business is really actually an old business because we've been discussing water districts and outages and things like that for quite a few months now. So I don't know if you're going to rearrange the agenda, but I would like to leave early tonight. We did have another water leak on July 30th, and I would like to say John Sherney, Rick Beams, and Jack Sherry were very responsive. They did come out. Of course, it's been leaking at a place that has leaked previously in the past several times, so this is a repair we pay for over and over and over, and I don't think it's fair that the water district keeps having to pay for a repair that was in an area well identified and should have been replaced, not repaired. So that's my comment about Water District 12. I also understand Water District 1, another district, had a water outage problem. Again, it's not just Water District 12, it's a lot of water districts. The other thing I would like to say is Round Lake. I actually didn't notice how much traffic was caused by those boat rentals until this summer when you didn't have it. And I would say traffic is much better on Lakes Road, and I appreciate the renting of the boats being limited and not the other things has really improved the traffic there. It's much, much better. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mary.
Mike Andruzzi?
Not to be repetitive, I just wanted to point, everybody's racing as soon as there was going to be the moratorium. And I get the concept of, having a grievance, but I really think there is no grievance if you didn't file the map. If you didn't file the map, again, trying to save money, there should be no grievance. You didn't follow the process, you took a chance, and you lost. If you filed the map, then you would have been getting it under the wire, so to speak, and then you might have some sort of, stop the clock, and you have a right to complain. If there was no map filed, and you took a chance because you're trying to save money on the taxes, because you're trying to say it's vacant land, then you don't have a hardship. And I don't see any other, I'm not an attorney, unfortunately, but I think he might be able to agree that then that's the, you didn't file it. If you would have filed it, you'd have a leg to stand on. The second thing is, I'm only going by what it says here about the accessory apartments without beating it to death. Again, these accessory apartments are grossly being abused, and I really think it's got to be stopped. And before you address any of these other laws here, old business, new business, grandfathering or anything, you have to take care of that accessory apartment and knock it off the books. The third thing I see here is the Rio corridor. Again, I'm reading here, last done in 2002, that's 14 years ago. And again, they never took into account the abuse and the supersized buildings that are going up. That's very important. Everything was, oh, there's only going to be 49 homes, 49 homes. When I was complaining years ago about that corridor, you know, from what I understand, if you build 50 or more homes, then you need a water district and you need a water treatment plant. But you go with 49 homes and everybody goes, well, you have to work within the laws, you have to work within the laws. These are the laws that are on the book. And everybody knew the laws stink, but we're still working with those old laws. So everybody plays within the rules of these laws. So I have, you know, my father does 49 homes, I do 49 homes, my brother does 49 homes, my son does 49 homes. And there's really 500 to 1,000 homes. And that's what you guys should be looking at. Hey, look at the size of this thing. We really know there's 1,000 homes going up there, not 49 homes. And then when you add the accessory apartments, you know, that changes it to 2,000 or whatever. You know, you get my point, not to go on the numbers. And that's why that engineering, whoever put that down, it's great that it should be there, and that project, that study really, really needs to be done before this moratorium could be lifted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Christina Kiesel?
Christina Kiesel, Town of Monroe. At the last town board meeting, Supervisor Doles brought up the road that runs behind Target, Bailey Farm Road. Mr. Doles mentioned that he had been contacted by Ira Wasserman. Mr. Wasserman is a neighbor of mine. I spoke with him and he mentioned he was frustrated with the fact that Bailey Farm Road has been closed for many years now. I personally share that frustration as I tend to shop at Target often, probably more than I should, as is evidenced by my credit card statements. Mr. Wasserman said he had complained about this issue to a United Monroe member and was told, in effect, United Monroe doesn't have time for these kind of matters, and they are only focused on annexation. He declined to say who that United Monroe person was, and I have not been able to locate anyone who recalls speaking with him. As a founding member of United Monroe, I find the situation puzzling, particularly since I'm on a committee that has been investigating many different matters within the town. In fact, we have a 22-page long spreadsheet of FOIL requests that include things like FEMA payments, boat rentals, dial-a-bus, the dog shelter, KJ highway contract, the water department, Town of Monroe movie theater, parkland fees, public safety personnel, and the list goes on. There's so much corruption in this town, we need an entire committee just to sift through it all. Regarding Bailey Farm Road, I contacted the mayor of Harriman to gain a better understanding of the issue, since I really didn't know much about it. As it turns out, the road behind Target is within the town of Monroe. It intersects with River Road, which is in the village of Harriman, and that's where it's blocked off. In 2010, there was an agreement reached between the town and the village that Bailey Farm Road would be a one-way street coming from River Road towards Larkin, with the exception of emergency vehicles which would be permitted to go in both directions. But in order for that to happen, the developer of the shopping center, RD Management, needs to complete road striping and signage, and the cost would be approximately $20,000. Apparently, just before leaving office, Supervisor Sandy Leonard and the Monroe Town Board released the developer's performance bond, even though the project was incomplete. The Village of Harriman does not intend to pay for the costs that are the responsibility of the developer. Supervisor Dole, since the developer's monies were released, if Bailey Farm Road is opened, is the taxpayer footing this bill? Or do you have an avenue to go after the developer for the costs? And I'd also like to know if RD Management is going to be permitted to build in the future developments within the town, since he has not met his obligations for the Target Shopping Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Goldstein?
Mike Goldstein,
here to present reason number 14, why we should get rid of the accessory apartment law. I haven't done that for a while. If everybody looks at the agenda for the planning board in November of 2015, the first meeting, there were 3 items listed which were all for accessory apartments, listing different people's names. Turns out when you check with Orange County, this property is all owned by the same, I'll call him quote unquote, a small developer. He has a house which is around the corner from these 2 projects, and yet he is claiming that, according to our accessory apartment law, that he will be living in it 6 months of the year, which is BS. He has a house around the corner. And that the other properties are also going to be built by him, so he can't live in all these apartments for 6 months. And they're all exceeding what is put in our law right now. The law states within an existing structure. I don't know where we've fallen down with this, but that's number 14. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ward Brower?
Ward Brower, private citizen. Thank you. Question is to the town board, since I've seen this accessory attached dwelling law has been on the agenda and removed half a dozen times in the last couple of months. My question is to the board, when you get to budgetary time, are you going to allocate enough money for enforcing this law that's on the books? Because there's 2 things that's in that code. One, as was mentioned, is a owner occupied for 6 consecutive months out of the year. The other is, it's supposed to be for single persons and couples, not families. So we have a law on the books that obviously no one's investigating. So we're going to need some more code enforcement people. And I tried to do a calculation, what would be semi-realistic, and I figured that optimistically, 1 inspector could probably inspect 3 apartments per day. And if you have 20 working days in a month, that means 1 inspector could inspect 60 apartments. Problem is, you have 446 new building permits out there who want to be wavered in, and all of them will probably apply for the accessory attached dwelling law. So if you have 446, and you have to inspect all, make sure they're owner occupied and they're single occupant or 2, not families, couples. That means you're going to need somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8 full-time inspectors, and they will be perpetually employed because you're going to have to make sure that those things are owner-occupied for 6 months out of the year. That means you have to go there at least once a month to check, see who's there. And who's in there? Is it 1 person? Is it a couple? Or is it a family? And when you do find violations, human nature being what it is, you correct that violation, and within a month, that's flipped around, and we have a new owner who doesn't live there either, and a new family. So you got to start all over again. So I figure you're going to need 8 full-time inspectors, plus we already have a number of these, which have been enumerated over the past couple of months, who have apparently never been inspected. So I figured throw in a couple extra, 2 more extra inspectors, so you're going to have to budget for 10 inspectors to make sure this law is in compliance. And if you don't make sure the law is in compliance, then it's called anarchy. When you have books, laws on the books that no one enforces, that's anarchy. So you have to do this. You either repeal it or you enforce it. You have no other option. So make sure you put that money in the budget. Thank you.
That's all.
Anyone want to comment?
Yeah, I will, unless someone else wants to go first.
I'll
Just
go.
ask them to keep our comments 3 minutes, please.
I'll just make one mention.
Important stuff to carry, 3 minutes per speaker.
This has to do.
Go ahead.
This has to do with Mr. Brower. I think as start reviewing these, some of these accessory apartments, as you start reviewing some of these cluster kind of lifestyle homes, you're going to find that what used to be a single-family home, paying full assessed value, have now been condoed. And that's a unique phenomenon here in Monroe, and it seems to be escalating, and that's taking a single-family home, turning into a multifamily home, and then rather than having it paying the single-family taxes, it's paying the condo rate, which is whatever the fair market rental rate is, which is considerably less. It's something which Mr. McKenna had inquired about. I sent him the information. The information was provided by the assessor as well as by our Carter, because they wanted to know, because once these units are condoed, they are taken off of the, they're taken out of the garbage district, so they no longer pay the garbage, they're part of the garbage tax. So one of the new components of all this is the creative use of condoing what used to be a single-family home into a multi-family condoed residence, and the taxes that are not being paid to the school district, the town as well. But I believe also, and someone can correct me on this, the absence of parkland fees. So there's a couple of other more overarching themes here than just the use of the piece of space to be able to create another couple of thousand square feet of space, even though it's designed for just a single or a couple. That's all.
Jerry? Oh, yeah. As far as the comment about the boat rentals being limited, actually, they weren't limited, they were eliminated. So let's get that straight. It's another one of my complaints about the new baby out with the bathwater situation. I think they should have reviewed it, and I agree with Tony and Mike that it's good to review and get policies and procedures squared away. I have no argument with that. But typically, you do your review while it's in operation. That's typically how you review a function of a town or a village. You keep operating, you make what you call changes or, adjustments. All right, as far as the Bailey Farm Road closing, yes, there was problems with the developer as far as finishing some work. I believe that, I'm not putting anyone on the spot, I know Tony and Rick said they would look into it. I'm sure in the next while, next few meetings, hopefully they'll get back to the board with some information from what they've done or what they're going to do. Everyone's very busy, I know that, but it will be looked into. I think it's a health hazard right now the way it's done, and I don't think that's the way it was intended to be done. In fact, when the board made the agreement, we had no idea that this was what was going to happen, and I found it to be very disturbing. Mr. Goldstein. I think that all the things you brought up in the last few months, I believe that the board should look into, as a board, talking with the building inspector. I know, like you said, it's a lot for one person to do, but he should look into all these things that Mike Goldstein has brought to our attention and see what's going on with them, because there is a law in the books and it should be enforced properly. And from what Mike has shown all of us, in a lot of cases it doesn't seem to be. Now, I also see that the board opened our eyes here with the 8 new full-time inspectors, which would quite a budgetary feat. I still do have a little bit of an argument that while it could be taken out, I think eventually something should be put back in with the new code where if you limit the size of it to a small apartment, at least you know that it's not going to have a multitude of people in it. You can limit the size. We can make it whatever the town comes to, some kind of, because there's some seniors, very few, but some seniors do use it. And I think we should keep that option open for them. A few seniors came up to me and asked me to please try and keep that option eventually open, on a limited scale, of course. But that's all, thanks.
Is there anyone else?
Just in response to what you said, Jerry, I did speak to Mayor Welly over the last month. Exactly what Christine had said is the issue. They have no intention of paying for it. As far as that goes, he's reached out to the developer on numerous occasions, has not gotten a response. And his main concern, and I would have to agree with him, especially if I would was living on River Road, is the traffic going out on River Road is gonna create a heck of a problem because people are gonna start using it as a detour. And it's gonna, I think they estimated it would quadruple the traffic that's already on there.
It would be increases,
Yeah.
yeah. But maybe something could be worked out as originally planned with the one-way and the emergency vehicle option.
He's got no problem doing that, but like he said, there's about $18,000 to $20,000 in improvements that need to be made. The developer should be responsible for that. And maybe that's a caveat that the developer is presented with when they develop that site pad on the corner.
Okay. Well, you gonna look into that a little bit? As you and Rick look into that also?
What?
With the developer, maybe in the future call the developer? Or have the attorney call the developer?
I don't think it's the town's place, I think it's in Harriman's place. If Harriman's contacted the developer on numerous times and hasn't gotten a response.
Yeah, but some of the property that they developed was Monroe Town land, right?
Correct.
So I mean, maybe we have a little bit of a say too.
Who's that pad before? Is that before the Village of Harriman Planning Board, or is it before ours? You know?
That's town of Monroe.
Town.
So
Oh,
if
you're
it's,
right, that's the town.
right, so if that's already before, I don't know where it is in the approval process, then planning board should address that.
Mary?
Okay.
Wait, let me, Eric, can you come and speak, because I know you had a work session there.
You know, the Harriman Business Park pad site, the one that's like across the street from Target, next one, that is before the planning board. We had given it approval. We are still working on the resolution.
Can you
So
possibly?
I will pass that word along
I
and
will do
everything
this, you
tomorrow.
pass it along, and I will email Audra, if everybody's okay with it, asking her to look into the possible reopening of it, and them paying for it as part of the process, the approval process.
But there still should be some money somewhere
I
because the
thought
pad
there
site
was, I
was
thought there
still,
was. I really did.
it was still
I was
has
under
a
that impression.
possibility to be developed, so there still should be
I
some
thought
money
there was money
somewhere.
left for that.
Peter, can you-
Unless
The board refunded the bond.
The bond, it was $62,000 that we had at the time, that's what I recall. And I remember that when we first hammered that, I had that, right, agreement, hammered it out, everything was done, and then before I turned around, the money's gone. So I was in touch with Mayor Welly this past weekend. We spoke about that and a few other issues that I'll talk about later on. And now that we have something else that's being
We'll have to ask for
developed
a
on
new
that
bond.
front, we'll have to see what we can do to get that issue resolved.
Okay, but I will pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony and Rick.
Somebody else like to speak? Anyone else? Okay.
Could I just make one comment about water one?
Sure.
That was a leak in the village that caused that water outage.
Can't hear you.
It was not, the leak that caused the water outage in Water District 1, I guess it was like last week before, it was the water line in the village of Monroe that had the problem, not part of the town.
No, it was the pump house.
No, it was below it. Well, below it, there was also an outage because there was a water leak in the village. On Rye Hill Road. On Rye Hill Road, yeah. In addition.
Oh, in addition to
In
that?
addition.
Okay.
We move along to the old business here.
We have, under old business, this is a, hire a Nick Taylor, this is for TMAC, part-time, $9 per hour to replace the employee that left. Mr. Cardone had asked for the application and the credit report. You folks have that.
Okay, I'll address this. When I did a month ago, when I read and what was given to me by T-Mac to hire, it was supposed to be 4. They had the name, they didn't put it in the package. I don't know where they put the name, so I had no idea about it. But I had originally been told 4. When I read it a month ago, it was only 3, and I read the names and all that. But yeah, 3. But they had told me right after the meeting that, oh, why didn't you mention the 4th employee? I
It's
said,
on
oh,
the
it wasn't.
second page.
I missed it. It's my fault. But this person, Nick Taylor, was to be included there. I didn't include it in my motion. I apologize to Nick Taylor. I'm sorry. Oversight, I guess, on my part. But this was the fourth one to take over for summer vacations and people who are leaving to go back to school or whatnot, college or high school, and they can't continue some of their employment hours. It's just to fill in the what's going to be missing hours now, so we can't fill with the people who are doing the summertime. So I would make a motion to add Nick Taylor to be approval for part-time work at TMAC for $9 an hour, and this would be to take the place of people who leave or go back to high school and they can't do the hours anymore.
Do we know how many people are going, I'll second it for discussion. Do we know how many people are going back?
It sounded to me, if my memory serves, that it was almost to the tune of 7 or something like that. I was more than the 4, but I think the managers there felt that they had enough, that they could at least put in 4 workers, that they'd have enough to fill in the missing hours. Now, I didn't question them on that. I just went ahead and said, put this forth to the board last month, and now this month, I want to just finish the motion and add the 4th name that I should have put in last time. It wasn't on my first sheets. I think it was on another sheet that I overlooked. So that little snafu was on me, and I apologize for the complication. It's one employee for $9 an hour, and he's a local, he's a Monroe resident.
You shouldn't say snafu.
Okay, mistake.
Any further discussion? Call the question.
Okay. So right now we have 21 aides working at the theater.
A pool.
What's that?
A pool of 21.
We have a pool of 21.
Right.
So we're basically going to be, if 7 leave, we're knocking it down to 14.
And then adding, I guess, 4.
If they're not, I don't know if those 4 are on here.
Are the 3 already included in that?
3 already included.
I think they're already included
Okay.
there.
So we're adding 1 would be
This
15.
one.
What's that?
If we add 1 to the 14, it would be 15.
It'd be 15. I'm looking at this from a planning standpoint. Not that I don't want to hire the gentleman, but I'm looking at it from a planning standpoint whereby the theater, the TMAC is open for 53 hours during the week. Okay?
Right now.
Right now. And we presently have 180 hours, not including management, that we're paying salaries for during the week. I just find that over the top because I don't see where you need more than 2 people if you have a manager there at any given time.
How many hours did you say during the time?
53 hours.
So 53, and the other number you brought up, the big number was what?
It was 180 per week.
So that's roughly
3.4.
4 employees per shift.
That probably includes the projections.
No, it does not.
No,
Okay.
no, that's separate.
Stand correct.
That's separate. So
What I usually,
I just think every aspect of it that I've come in contact with is not being managed as prudently as it should be. And
okay.
I'll give you an example. My business has 74 hours that were open during the week. And my hours for employees, not including me, right now is about 145 to 150.
It's 2.
So
2 per shift.
it's 2. It's 2 per shift. So I just don't see how, if we're losing that kind of money, we're managing it that loosely.
Well, maybe we can get it down to 3 instead of 3.4. Now, when Harley, and I think you did too, there was some streamlining done last year and this year, and I think it was meant well, and I had no problem with that, because I'm not saying it should be streamlined. But I did go to the theater a few times, and I had talked with some of the managers, and they felt that when you're down to 3 per shift with the rush for making the popcorn, dealing with tickets and dealing with giving the food to, not giving, selling, I should say, selling the food to the constituents of the patrons, that they felt that that was, in their opinion, you know, the maximum cutting that was done, that they could function. But now, and this is not a shot at anyone, now that there's no security there, sometimes the security officer will also jump in and sell tickets or help out in certain ways that wasn't.
Working out of title?
I'm sure. But that was just to help out and stuff, so we wouldn't have to overman or over personnel the thing. So I think, you know, it's something to be looked at, and maybe we can trim it a little more. But you don't want to, you also got to clean up, to keep the theater presentable. And
When we have a
the
maintenance
theater,
crew in there,
the
a cleaning crew in the morning?
yeah, but they also clean between shows and after, right after the show. And I don't think you want to have things get out of hand, because you do talk about food products, and that could get smelly or, you know, in the carpet or whatever in between shows, so you gotta be careful with that. And not saying you're a business guy and you know your business, and every business is a little different, you know, so you gotta look at it a little differently. But we should look into trimming it if we can,
Well,
down.
I think part of the problem is that there's no direction given to the manager / managers. And there's two of them who seem, in my assertion of the situation, they're constantly butting heads. So there's no one person there that can say, I'm making this decision and that's what's gonna happen.
Right, you know, originally it was, the management was there and also the town board was an overseer, you know, as you know. The one thing I think that has happened, and I think it happened, and it's not to blame any one person or 2 people or 5 people, but when the changing of the board came on, there was a different dynamic. And I do think that I feel, from when I've talked to both managers, that for whatever reason, I think you're right, there is a little bit of butting of heads now. But I think that came about with the shift in the board, and I don't think they had a foothold on what their response, you know, how the board was gonna treat not only the building and the process of running it, but treating them. And also, you know, to be perfectly frank, when we have boards passing resolutions to keep certain people out of the process, I think that sends a crazy message to people that you're saying that, and I wouldn't pass a message against anyone on the board going there, because I go there and I feel free to do so, and talk with the managers, and say hi to the young people who work there, and the people who work there. I think we made a mistake on all parts. I think the board made a mistake when it became adversarial on our end, instead of working a little more together on the problems. And you're right, there are some problems. You're absolutely right.
I think, Jerry, it's.
And I think one option is, maybe put a person, they've been asking for a relief valve so they can go on vacations and have days off or not work the overtime, because then when they work the overtime, the board complains about the overtime. So to have one more manager there to help them, or to be in charge of them, something like that. Well, because what happens is if you look at the amount of hours when the managers are there, it's recently run into some overtime issues, and also when one person goes on vacation for a week, which a lot of people do in the summertime, then the other one has to make up that a lot that week, and then it runs into an overtime situation. So I mean, I think we really have to look at it closely.
But Jerry, there's 53 hours in a week it's open. Each manager, if they work 35 hours a week, it equals 70.
I think the main problem is when they're not there, when they're on vacation or sick or anything like that, you run into the overtime thing. That's why I mentioned that.
Just one question, real quick.
And last thing, I think that we should maybe have a meeting in a workshop, whether it's public or executive session, I don't know what the rule would be, or have some of the board members go and talk to these managers, and maybe iron out the differences between the 2 of them that might be occurring, and I think we should move forward then. I agree with you.
The way you iron it out is you say one of them's in charge. You don't have 2 of them in charge. You have a manager, and you have an assistant manager.
But while the assistant manager's there, they'll be in charge of who's on staff that day, correct?
Yeah.
You know, you have to have someone there to
Yeah,
run.
and then we have somebody in our human resource department doing the ordering for the concession stand. It just makes no sense, everything in it makes no sense. Let me just give you an example, okay? You got 2 people on a shift for matinees. Saturday, there were 21 people for the matinees. Friday, there was 48. Okay, so, all right, maybe Friday, but if I go back to Tuesday, I don't think there was 20 people there for matinees. There's no reason to have 2 people on for a matinee.
What do you think, Juan?
One, because you have the manager there and you have one.
That's not a bad idea. Why don't we move that forward?
Oh, listen, I will,
work on it.
yeah, after this, I will make a motion that we put a limitation on the hours that they're allowed to schedule at the theater.
Okay, but do you think we should maybe figure out what we want that to be as a board instead of just saying the number right now? Maybe next meeting we'll do it? I'm serious, so we can talk about it?
Listen, I've gone over this left and right. I know Peter has done a little work on it. If you don't like the motion that I make and you want to vote against it, I have no problem with that. But I'm just tired of the money going, of the taxpayers' money going out the window.
Okay. I see your point. But now I'm gonna give you a little bit of a counter argument, with all due respect. When you look at different town and village functions that we all pay for, whether it's, oh, here we go.
Ryan, please.
Folks, please, whether you look at the theater, and I'm not against what you're saying in general, but if you look at the fact, when you look at the staffing even of a library or of a town park with security, there's plenty of times I go by the village park, there's no one in the park and you're paying 2 security guards, but we have a village police force that we pay for. The library, there's, I'm sure, I think they've done a little streamlining, but there's hours where people aren't there and they're there. I'm not criticizing the library, I'm not. I'm just saying that in any function you do, and you in business know there's peak times and lull times, and there's also peak periods and lull periods during your year. So I think we gotta take that into consideration.
Yeah, but the park and the library probably have a weekly, hourly budget set. We don't. So.
That's a good idea. I'm just saying the numbers gotta be done correctly.
Listen, it's a horrible management structure that's there. They don't seem to be able to be capable of scheduling people in an efficient manner. It's been like that before we came on, so to say that since we've come on, it's created division of managers.
I didn't say that.
There's nobody in charge. Well,
I didn't
that's
say,
how I
no,
read
I
it.
did
It
not
wasn't how you
say
said
that.
it.
I did not
I'm
say
just
that.
saying, there's nobody in charge, but everybody's in charge. And if you went to Cinema 6 or any other theater, you'd see it's ran in an efficient manner. People, when you come out of the theater, there still isn't 4 or 5 people working there. There's, the one guy there, because everyone's gone.
I didn't say
and that's not what's done there. It's not done on an occupancy type basis. It's just they're scheduling people regardless of whether you have 10 people in the theater or you have 100. It's got to be done in a more efficient manner.
I agree with you. And I didn't say what you pertained to earlier. What I said was.
That's what I heard. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Maybe I wasn't clear.
I went in on
It wasn't an
Saturday.
argument. It wasn't an argument about the efficiency. I didn't claim that as the new board. I didn't say that. What I meant was a little bit of the butting of the heads, because I think we know how political this town can be, and I think that there was sort of a little bit of a wondering, perhaps nervousness on parts of managers on whose side was on whose, and who was looking to get rid of the other one or take that jockey for position, and that's where I think some of that came from. That's all I meant.
Well, that was induced by themselves, not by any.
No, I'm not saying it was. Maybe it was a perception. That's all. It just seemed that way.
All right. Can we get back to the original matter at hand here?
Yeah. Do you want to? Yeah. It's just a hiring of the $9 an hour
Or we
part-time.
have a motion in a second.
Yeah. I think it's just going to fill a spot. I don't think it's going to add hours, because if we limit the hours, they won't be working extra hours. So I would hope the board will at least see fit to hire the young person. Aye.
Okay, and also while we're on the topic, I'd like to make a motion that we limit the weekly hours for employees to 135 hours per week, which is about a 22% drop.
Does that include the managers or just the employees?
No, it doesn't include the manager.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's a 25% drop.
I'll second it.
That's the motion?
Yes.
That's the total for a week?
Total for a week for recreation aides and people in the unknown department.
On team.
TMAC.
Okay. Can I ask you one question? Are you positive that number would be the proper one? Did you do enough research on it? I don't know. I think that'll work good.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm positive that it's a number that'll save the taxpayers quite a bit of money.
Now, if there's a slight adjustment later, would you maybe revise it up or down? Maybe make it less or more in the future? Look at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
I'll go along.
Gentlemen, I just have one question. The amount of hours that it's open, are you including, because when I was talking to one of the managers there,
An hour before and an hour after.
right, okay, cool, that's it, I'm good.
Call the question.
Aye.
Who seconded that?
Mike?
Moving right along, what do we have next?
Chapter 57, accessory apartment.
Make a motion to table it.
Repeal.
Second it.
Chapter 57, accessory apartment law, repeal the accessory apartment law discussion.
We have a motion to table.
He has a second.
And a
Who
second.
started his motion first? The answer.
Right, second for discussion.
I'll second it for discussion.
It was already seconded to table. You can't second it again once it's been seconded to
So he
table.
made the motion first.
He
You interrupted.
No.
You do. I mean, you
I'm
can't.
all right, you want to do it that way, I'm
All right,
seconding
you
it.
do it that way.
I'm seconding it to table it.
Oh,
Council, again,
You jumped in front of it.
you have a motion, you seconded it, Jerry.
That's all.
Call question.
For discussion.
for discussion.
Harley, you wanted to say something?
Look, it's,
This dog has been beaten how many times?
people want it, some members of the board don't want it, or they don't want it now, whatever it is, it's gonna be what it is. Eventually, I think we're all gonna come to the same conclusion that regardless of the lack of will that the board has to pass it today, that eventually it will be repealed, and we'll be able to put this chapter behind us. So, that's all I have to say.
The only comment I'll make is if I would agree to vote to repeal it as long as we agree as a board to try and put something back into the new code that would be a limited, very limited version of it that would help the original people was meant to help seniors and people who are economically, maybe on a fixed income somehow, that they can bring in a tenant or two, not a multitude of people, but something to help them out. I think that's important.
Isn't that why we have the planner board?
No, but I'm putting it forward too, and I hope the planner's listening.
What do you mean you
I'm
have the
good.
planner? Listen, you can call the planner. to listen.
I've already talked to her about it. I want her to listen more.
Call the question.
Aye.
No.
Nay.
Nay.
I'm gonna say no, as long as you're going to add a part that's going to
I'm not asking a part,
keep this intact, no way.
Are you kidding me?
What?
Are you kidding me?
What?
The motion was to eliminate,
Wait,
that's the motion. So you're voting against your own motion.
no,
I didn't add it to the motion. I can't.
Who's on first?
Third base.
I'm just adding the fact that I think we should have something eventually in there to help you, the way it was originally intended.
And I say that's why we have the planner board.
Mr. McQuaid, I'm sure that's going to be addressed in an effective manner and will be,
We hope so, yeah,
will be
absolutely.
in the best interest of everybody in town.
We'll do it in full code.
Next.
Next?
Okay, I'll go over this.
What's that?
I talked to the building assessor and to the building department and the assessor's department about moving to the new town hall item C. And, keep it moving, okay. And they both came up with a situation where the building department, the building inspector said he felt the last week in September was a date that was most convenient / possible for him to move to the new town hall. The assessor felt that they could move their department earlier than that, but the problem was, and Peter could get involved in this if he wants, with the server, I was informed that because of the server issues, that they would both be better off moving the same week. Okay, so they can, that was not something I did. I put a call on you, Peter, I know you were busy and didn't get back to it, but, so we have to move them both the same week, and I guess deferring to the building inspector, Mr. Maldonado said he really would appreciate the board considered moving him the last week of September, or if we can't do that, call him and talk to him and see if there's another date. That's what he was talking about. I just want to let everyone know that I did look into it.
Thank you. I mean, listen, at this point, what's another really a month from today? I don't feel looking at maybe a month or 5 weeks from today. I think everyone can live with that. I think it's reasonable.
I want to work with the department so they know what they need to move, so.
If the board decided to to get new furniture, there would be a lead time to get that installed in place anyway, which would be somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks.
So why don't we set a move-in date for Monday the 26th? How's that sound? Of September. We'll shoot for that as a target date. Without target dates, we won't go anywhere, so let's at least shoot for the 26th. How's that sound, everybody?
Good.
Fine.
Okay. We need a motion?
No, I don't. So, I'll call Ben tomorrow and take it tomorrow.
We don't need a motion, just set pending motion.
Could I pass out copies of these bids that we do have for furniture?
Sure.
Take a look at them.
Sure.
Date.
Okay, can we move on to the next item, Dean?
Thank you.
Okay. Time clock biometric system. I brought this up to the board I guess it was a month ago. Thanks, Rick. I would like to just ask if the board would like to proceed with moving forward with this. I also have one issue that came up where we would be looking to add the TMAC onto that list of biometric time card clock situations, and that will change the numbers just a little bit. If it goes up percentage-wise, it's another, if it's 5 buildings, it would then be 6. Whatever amount it is would go proportionally because it's the same equipment. The one thing we did put in was the TMAC because the research that was done didn't include at the time, but I feel that because of the interoperability of the system, that it would be good for every building to have it. The only question is, with the courts, and I know I saw the judge here earlier, what are the rules? We'd have to look quickly into the rules on that, whether the courts are going to be included or wouldn't want to be, or whatever the deal is, to be included in the management system all the time. And also, the advantage of this is that you could schedule vacations. The employees, once they punch in, they learn a code number, everyone will be briefed on everything. They'll be able to look at how much vacation time they have left, when it's scheduled, how much sick time they've used, how much personal time they've used. And we'll also help the managers of each department/building understand what's going on with their management. So it brings management up into a more of a modern situation than the time cards and notebooks. So I think if the board wants to pursue it, I'll get the bid including TMAC, and then we'll have something maybe at the next meeting to have solid numbers I'll give you beforehand.
I mean, hopefully we'll get a little more consolidated with our services eventually, or our departments, and be quite as,
Right.
knocking off some costs down the road.
Right. And the one thing too is I talked with some of the building operators, the department heads, and the one thing we did agree upon that the town board would have to work out is when you have strictly a field operation, like highway, talk to John about it, and a few other people, then you'd have to maybe make the system work for the fact that they're not always in a building. So we'd have to streamline the system so it would work for office personnel and field personnel. But that's easily done according to the company and to the field people.
One point of contention though was that you mentioned the courts, which is a whole nother ballgame. And in fact, I see one of the justices now, Justice Milligram is here. Did you want to comment on that if you?
We didn't include the courts in it. We just were going to ask the courts if they wanted to be included.
If you want to take 2 minutes and give your opinion, and as long as you're here.
Before the judgment's up, this was not part of the bid, but I wanted to also make it available for the courts if they wanted to get in on it.
Thank you. My concern with the court is that the court officers are all part-time. Their agreement is that they're paid for a 4-hour shift. There are some days, like for example, I have a traffic calendar trial scheduled for Wednesday night. That we could be there for 6 hours. We could be there for 1 hour. So the time metric system, which I'm familiar with, because my office used something similar at one point, we transferred into a different system, is not effective with my court officers and court personnel due to the nature of what they do. There's also another issue which I think is related to that. I think I shared it with all the board members. There was an opinion from the Commission on Judicial Ethics, the Advisory Committee, which indicated that, for example, if summoned to a supervisor's meeting, the court clerk is not permitted nor authorized to attend. It's an unethical act on her part because she's an employee and a member of a separate branch of government, not answerable to in that type of circumstance. So that's the second concern I would have with the time metric system. I have not asked for an opinion because this is sort of new. I can find out an answer, but my general impression would be it seems to be operating fairly well in the court. I assume our hours and our costs and our things are reasonably controlled. We do cover arrears people. We make a profit for the town, so I think we're operating fairly efficiently.
That was just, I saw you here and I just want to let you know that it's coming up hopefully, and if you wanted to look into it, you could, more than welcome.
I'm sure there's ways that system we can explore can be tailored, because at the bottom, at the end of the day, I understand the separation of powers and norms and stuff. They're still town employees and you still have to account for the time. And that's what this is about. It's really not about infringing on, whether it be yourself or highway or elected officials and different, it's just about accounting for time and making it easier for time management.
I don't disagree with that. It's just that, again, they're guaranteed a certain number of hours per shift, so it doesn't matter what time they clock in or clock out.
It matters when they clock in, because that's a timeliness issue, that they are being punctual and reporting to work.
Right, and our new supervisor is doing an excellent job on keeping track of that. In fact, he's probably working more hours than he should be, but we won't be telling that either. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll keep you apprised of anything that develops also, we'll work together with you.
If when you have a moment, there's another, there are two other issues I did want to bring to the board's attention, but I'll wait for you to get a chance. It's up to you.
Yeah, you're up here. Come on.
Okay. First item, you may remember I had received correspondence, several letters from the town supervisor asking me to sign a document indicating that I had received and reviewed the town ethics code and agreed to abide by it. I advised you at the time I sought an ethics opinion. I'm going to hand a copy of the opinion to counsel, who says it is unethical and illegal for a judge, and potentially illegal for a judge to sign that. It's an unethical invasion of the disciplinary rules governing a judge.
Judge, I don't believe I ever submitted any kind of email.
No, it was a written document, piece of paper about like yay big, that was sent under an envelope in a letter from the town supervisor's office saying this had to be signed.
Do you have a letter? Because I never.
Okay.
Again.
I'm not. It wasn't an
has a
accusation.
letter which would help.
Yeah, I think those were mailed to everybody.
That was probably erroneous.
HR and the supervisors.
Okay, wait. It wasn't an accusation, it's where it came out.
No. And I didn't take it as such, but again, just for the purpose of clarification.
The other point is, I'm handing up to your attorney also. As you may remember, actually it was Judge Vasquez-Doles who made the original application for what's called a JCAP grant in 2012 for money for court facilities. She signed the original application. We asked the court Office of Court Administration to amend that. I now have an authorization from Judge Sinichian, who is the person who is in charge of the Justice Court Assistance Program, where it indicates that we wanted to spend the funds for desks, storage file cabinets, bookcase, conference table, chairs, etc. Did she approve the expenditure?
Does she approve the expenditure for the furniture?
Correct. That was, and I would have brought that earlier. That's a copy of her document approving it. I'd really like to see, get over this hump of this thing and get this thing done. I really, let's get these things in place. It's not money that costs the town anything. It's a grant that Judge Vasquez applied for that we got.
So let me ask counsel, Mr. Nugent, do we need a board approval for this resolution?
Certainly make things clearer if you're here and just pass the resolution and authorize it. I believe this requires the supervisor's signature, the expenditure, is that what we're talking about?
I presume the check has to be signed by the supervisor since the monies were, and again, not accusatory, when they came in 2012, where they were put into the town's general fund improperly, and I believe the comptroller has segregated them into separate funds. But I don't have the ability to write that check. I could if I would.
So,
The one thing I would say is, I know there's been some talk of it back and forth. I think the board should get a copy of it, look at it, and make a decision at the next meeting.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
He wants us to approve it.
I think
Right.
it's already been, it's been approved.
The Office of Court Administration has
So,
approved the
Mr.
expenditure of
Nugent said
money.
he wants a, we should have a board motion.
No, no.
Did you say that?
He asked if we needed a resolution. I said, if you're all here, you can just direct the signature on the check if the matter's already been approved. But I don't know if there's been anything done in the past on this.
I don't
No.
know. I don't know.
I believe that Judge Apotheker is involved in this. Judge Apotheker is the acting Supreme Court judge who has jurisdiction over towns and villages. I believe that Judge Apotheker, and if you want, we can do this in attorney-client. However, these are correspondences between the acting Supreme Court judge and the members of the town board regarding this. And it has to do with a variety of issues, as well as regarding whether or not it's subject to General Municipal Law, I believe it's Section 103, and some other issues that Judge Apotheker felt it needed to be addressed. I believe he opined in an email. I also believe, if I'm correct, counsel had recused themselves because of their involvement in the courts as members of the judiciary, both in Salzburg, and that it was the advice of counsel, our counsel, that we should seek an opinion outside of the town council, so that we could make sure that we were doing this in a way which did not have any potential conflict of interest. And Mr. Newton, is that correct, that you...
Yeah, to be clear, the question that was asked about whether you needed a resolution has nothing to do with the conflict. If the board
Right,
is
but-
in question
but if you're going
as
to
to
opine-
whether...
But if you're going to
I'm not
opine...
opining. You asked if a resolution was necessary for something to be signed. That's advice that would be given regardless of the subject matter and has nothing to do with any conflict. So that was what was asked. If the board has a question as to whether the underlying subject matter, if that approval is still in question, then I would not advise you on that. But if you're asking me if a resolution can be passed to direct someone to sign a check, yes, that's just general advice.
That's, of course.
The document from Judge Sinichi is dated July 15th of 2016. We've heard nothing to indicate to the contrary. And I believe that at the time, although I don't know the date, she was given a variety of, I think we'd gotten 2 estimates plus a third set of prices. And I believe, Mr. Martin, those were shared with you also, I think, that we had gotten 3 separate prices, and we decided a particular vendor who is in our community, who is locally, who is going to do the installation and do a planogram for the court, and that's the reason that person was selected. Yeah, of the three estimates, and I believe the 3 were comparable in price.
there's actually 4. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
That was before that.
Yeah.
When we first asked them to modify the grant.
So basically what we're looking for here is a motion to write a check to cover to the vendor and pay the vendor for the furniture. Is that what we're looking for?
I think we,
Deposit, right?
essentially, I believe the purchase order has been submitted. I believe it's just a matter of getting the check cut to pay for the purchase order.
To the vendor, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. I think there was one open question that Peter and I had spoken of, is that in terms of, we knew that the building department were going to help bring the equipment, the desks and stuff up into the courthouse.
The
But it was-
maintenance
I'm
department.
sorry?
The maintenance
Excuse me.
department.
But the vendor was going to be responsible for setting them up. That was the only thing we asked for, because the delivery would be to sidewalk, because of partly the nature of our court facility.
I'll tell you, I spoke with, and I didn't solicit this, but apparently members of the community had made complaints on the district attorney's crime hotline or whatever set up about this misappropriation of funds and all that, and the district attorney was the town deputy supervisor, so he's well versed in how all that goes and how that would be. And he said, listen, it's the deposit into general funds and a check coming from general funds to pay the vendor would be appropriate. And I think that's what you're looking for, and
I just want to be able to get my court clerks desks that date sometime after the 1960s, chairs that don't fold underneath them when they sit down on them.
so based on,
File cabinets that are actually file cabinets and not, you know. So I apologize, Councilman McGinn. You're the liaison with the court. You know what we have.
yeah, it's along in the tooth, I got you. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the supervisor to sign the check for the purchase order for the furniture that was ordered.
I'll second it.
Well, for discussion, I'm going to request that before this is done, that Judge Apotheker and the Office of Court Administration gives clear indication that this is in compliance with the New York State General Municipal Law and that the proper procurement procedures were followed. This is Judge Apotheker returned today. This is Tuesday, August 2nd. I am on vacation this week and will address your concerns as soon as possible after I return. I believe that it would be prudent to wait for the acting Supreme Court judge who oversees the entire...
What concerns, sir? This is a JCAP grant.
Are you upset?
Yes, I'm upset because my court is being manipulated.
No, it's
Excuse me, let me speak.
Actually, Judge, you may well be manipulating the purchase of office furniture.
Is that what you're accusing me of, sir?
Against the wishes of what Judge Apotheker is trying to opine correctly on. So that's what we're looking at right now. So I understand that you're in a rush to do this.
We obtained 3 separate bids. We chose one that was appropriate. It's a grant that was issued to the court. It's not even the town's money. It's free money that we're risk losing.
Who obtained them? You don't risk losing the money. But again,
of course we do. It expires. We have to get it extended.
Let the Judge Apotheker opine on this. Let
Judge Apotheker's email, sir, if you remember his last one, in response to yours, says it's a political question. It's not for him to decide.
I don't have that. You have that? I don't have that as an email.
He sent it to me.
Okay, I don't have it. So can you please produce it for the town?
Stop. No.
So
it's a court matter.
But it's
I'm
not
not going to produce you the email Judge Apotheker sent to me. Okay. Correct.
You're saying, you're saying that a court matter, which you're now publicizing, is still a court matter. I don't understand. Regardless, you have a $15,000 purchase of office furniture that is supposed to, according to the acting Supreme Court judge, is supposed to conform to General Municipal Law, Section 103.
Which requires three separate cost estimates, which were obtained and provided to the town.
The motion is supposed to go out before the town board. That is not something which, if I'm reading Judge Apotheker's correctly, that it's something which you or somebody else has the authority to do. It's something which the town board winds up.
That's fine. I'll withdraw the request for funding. I'll send the JCAP money back. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Wait a second, wait a second, wait,
Come back here.
Time out. We wasted enough money in this town. Let's reel this all back in. All right, listen, the motion is before us, all right? Supervisor Doles has made his opinion known. Do you have an opinion on this, Mr. McQueen?
You want my opinion?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
In 3 minutes or less, that'd be great. So we can move on to other matters.
I think what we should do, and I understand, I think there's been some concerns with the supervisor that might have some merit just on concern's sake. I'm not the legal scholar here, obviously. But I will say, I think we should probably pass the motion that gives the supervisor the ability to sign it. Maybe Judge Apotheker could get the email to Mr. Doles, Supervisor Doles this week. Maybe it'll clear everything up and then we can move forward. But I do agree with making it possible for the supervisor to sign it. I agree with you on that. But let's try and move it forward.
Mr. Cologne?
I think we vote and have the supervisor sign it, and the supervisor can do something very amazing. Pick up the phone, make a phone call, find out, yeah, it's okay, done.
If the judge...
But Rick, you have it. This went to Alan Shankman.
No, you sent it to Judge Shankman.
It's a grant that was given, it's grant money, it was given to us.
Actually, this was
So
sent...
obviously it's okay.
Mr. Supervisor, you also sent it to Chris McKenna, to the
Charles Apotheker.
It did go to the
Charles Apotheker to Judge Shankman, and this is it. This memo was prepared by the undersigned, Nancy I can't pronounce it, Sunikian, Director of the Office of Justice Support. Please be advised of the following. The original JCAP grant applications was dated October 3rd and was approved for the 2012-2013 in the sum of $22,684. In May 2016, the court requested permission to reallocate the balance of unpaid funds from said grant in the approximate sum of $13,000 to purchase desk, file cabinets, bookcases, and conference tables and chairs. A form needed to be signed in order to effectuate approval was emailed to the court on or about June 3rd. To date, this form has not been received by OJCS. 4. All courts who receive a JCAP award are provided with the reconciliation form, see attached, containing a provision which states as follows: any goods and or services purchased with the any court assistance program funds shall be obtained in accordance with acceptable procurement practices established by the governing municipality, including but not limited to competitive bidding and procurement policies and procedures. Compliance with the above cited provision is required for the purchase of the items listed above. The manner in which compliance with such provision is effectuated is a matter for the locality and its council to determine. A reasonable extension may be requested in order to have the reallocation approved and comply with such procurement policies.
You're a goof.
In other words...
It was approved, Mr. Supervisor. That's the facts I gave you, by Judge Sunikian.
But
That's the facts you have dated July 15th.
Didn't you just say that it has to be approved by the board?
It's any goods and services shall be purchased with any justice court assistance program. Funds shall be obtained in accordance with acceptable procurement policies established by the governing municipality, including but not limited to competitive bidding and procurement policies and procedures. This town board did not, and
we gave you 3 bids, sir. That's how this town works.
First of all, we just got the 3 bids from you. It is the town's policy that we are the ones who initiate this, not you. You initiated it.
You can't initiate it, sir. It's not your money. It's a JCAP grant to the court.
Again, this is why, in addition to the other dialogue that we had between Judge Shankman and Judge Apotheker.
You had, sir. You emailed Judge Shankman and Judge Apotheker, not I.
Are you sure?
Positive. You're the one who initiated the contact with them, sir, not I.
Should I wind up, do you want to see the email that...
I would love to see the email that I sent, that I am the one that initiated that I sent to Judge.
Don't we have something to vote on?
Let's resolve this right now. Let's resolve this right now. We have other important matters to discuss here this evening. All right, listen, the motion stands. If the judge opines that there's a problem with it, it's not as per either OCA or municipal law or whatever, then the supervisor does not have to sign a check. If it is done within, if it's been done and there's no opining from the judge that this is incorrect, then the check gets signed, the furniture gets bought, and we move on.
We're
You agree with that?
I just...
You have the 3 cost estimates, correct?
That's fine.
This purchase,
Let's do that. That's
Wait,
fair.
wait. Peter?
Mike, first of all, this purchase is subject to local policy because it's under $20,000,
Yes, I know it is.
right?
Right.
So,
So it doesn't
local
fall under the
policy
3-bid
in the
policy,
range of
yes.
the cost is three requests, 3 written bids. It also says in our procurement policy, a good faith effort shall be made to obtain the required number of proposals or quotations. If the purchaser is unable to obtain the required number of proposals or quotations, purchaser shall document in writing the attempts made to obtain the proposals. Written documentation must be filed at or prior to the award of the purchase of the contract. In no event shall the inability to obtain the required number of proposals or quotes be a bar to the procurement of the goods or the contract for public works.
And you have how many?
So, you've got furniture that, as far as I know, is only available from 2 sources around here. I'm not sure, if there's 3 if you go to a catalog.
Catalog source, correct.
Right, so
By some unidentified vendor someplace.
Yeah, well, it's actually National Business, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big place, but then you have to get it for them, and you have to get it and have it shipped. And I've gone through that process. The board actually has in their hands a quote for the furniture that we would use in Town Hall for this move, And it shows clearly that this NBF route is much more expensive than the local route. So that leaves you with two local sources.
So the motion stands as stated.
No reason
That the motion is to authorize the supervisor to sign the check for the low bid purchase of this furniture based on the PO to the vendor, and unless there is a deciding opinion from Judge Hoffmacher, or whatever his or her name is, then that would be the only reason why that check would not be signed.
Absolutely.
Everyone good with that?
I'm okay.
Want to call the question?
Can I say one thing? Can I have one? He's got to call the question. Let me just say one thing. I think what we have here is I think it's a little procedural situation, and as long as the judgment is that the procedure is okay or doable, I have no problem.
Yeah, I think it all falls into place. And whether we put it out or the Justice Court put it out, it was put out by the town entity, it falls within, even though we don't have to do the procedure, procurement guidelines, everything's fine. So let's call the vote. Move on.
Aye.
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 I want to bring up one issue of fairness, though, after we
Attorney, you're killing me.
The last thing.
We voted on it. Let's
You look at
move.
procedures, Mike, you look at procedures, you all have to be aware of it. There was a case recently where a member of a board did something procedurally wrong, looked to be wrong.
Wow.
Then it was made a big deal, a trial happened and everything else, so I think that all of us have to be careful, not just careful, that we follow the proper procedure.
Folks, come on, one second, please.
That's why I think, it's the right thing to do.
I got
Hey,
you.
Jerry, that's about, that's a valid point. That's a valid,
Supervisor signed it, so you all see the ship, right?
that is a valid point.
Let me ask you a question, since I'm assuming Mr. Milligram is picking the vendor? Judge Milligram is picking the vendor?
Correct. After speaking with my court clerks, the vendors, it's the vendor who gave us the best deal, we thought, in terms of providing services. The vendor who I thought, after my court clerk spoke with her, and I think Mr. Martin reviewed the bid also, was Gina Jacobson. She lives in Woodbury. She and her husband also, I know, contract and do work in various school districts. And they also did a planogram to start realigning for security purposes, which I'm not going to go into, the arrangements inside our court office, which is potentially dangerous for my clerks at the present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can we move on to
Next.
letter E, April business?
Yes.
Part of this is for
The new contract?
the new contract for the, to go out for the refuse pickup. Whether or not the town wants to entertain that at this point.
Now, this would include the town, as it is done now, the town and two villages. Is that correct?
We will do that. It would.
It would.
It would.
Because I have spoken to the two mayors as well, and they're very much behind this. So we have to put out an RFP.
All right, who's responsible for putting out the RFP? I mean, do we
What
have,
usually happens is the town board talks to the attorney about drawing up the parameters of the RFP, and the attorney, like last time, he drew up the actual bid package.
so
The
Mary,
town board reviews.
Mary Ellen has that.
can you provide the old RFP for last year's contract? Provide it to Mr. Nugent so we can,
I would love
transfer
to,
it.
but it's in Pennsylvania. Along with the state police leaves.
I can get it, you know what, Mike?
Can we get it from
We
the
can get
garbage
it,
company?
we can get it from the coroner.
Actually, I do believe, you want to know what? I do believe I got it from someone, we provided it to the auditors.
You did, you got a
Yes,
copy of it.
I got a copy of it, and I provided to the auditors, so we'll get it.
I'm sure we can find it down somewhere. Mr. Nugent, get that RFP together. Certainly great.
I will present the board with a draft then, do you want to review it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put together based on the last one and then allow the board to make whatever changes or recommendations you would like.
Last time we did it, Mr. Nugent, we also had an attorney-client session about it, as it went along. So that's right.
Okay, that's,
You want to make a motion to, do we want a motion on that?
Well, you need a motion to instruct council to draft a RFP.
I make a motion that we,
have council.
have council, draft an RFP based on the, previous, contract and RFP, and we review it and attorney-client at our next meeting and proceed accordingly.
Right.
I second it. Is that good?
Yeah, well, for discussion, council, let me ask you, and that's in the context of of these condos. Are we allowed, is there a provision in law which allows us to re-include these condos that have somehow been now exempted from the garbage district? Is that something which we could put back into the new RFP? Or not put back into, but allow for?
Well, in terms of your pickup, I don't know what the arrangement is now with that particular development, but if you're providing a town service and town determines to change the service or the scope of it, that's up to the board. I don't know what the arrangement is now with them. Are they private?
My understanding is it's private.
They're private pickup.
And these are a number of condos that are proliferating in the town of Monroe.
How do you build the condos?
The condos will probably have to make their own contract with the
That's right.
service.
You can't, how do you build the condos? Who pays the tax bill on the
No, they have to
condominium?
make a separate.
So they have a separate garbage pickup.
They'll make a separate contract with the same service or different service if they
Yeah.
want. It's up to them.
Association.
Are you talking about a condo development or a house that's condo?
Well, I know the incident that they're probably talking about. If you go up in Vintage Vista, there's two houses that are side by side, and then there's another two houses that are side by side, and then there's another two houses that are side by side. The one in the middle of condos, the ones on each side are not. So the garbage men are going there 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they don't know.
I understand.
Because they're moving those garbage cans to the corner of the other ones.
I understand.
And the board
That's a problem.
Yeah, and it's not just Carter, yeah. Not fair to the taxpayers
To the
either.
town.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to bring up since we're talking about it is, I've gone around with the Carter looking at some things, and you have to realize there's an issue with not only condos, but, when you come to a house with, supposedly it's a two-family house and there's 6 meters on it. That could be some kind of a problem for the Carter, because now he's complaining, and he has complained that now he's picking up for six homes. And also, like Tony said, with the town, that's a problem too. So it's something that we have to address.
So discussion in executive session.
So Rick, you said you've been in contact with the Vegas.
Yes, I have.
They want to be in on the negotiations.
Yes, they do. Moving right along.
We need a vote for the motion pending to authorize the draft the RFP.
Call the question?
Aye.
This was discussed at the last board meeting regarding 3800 Ridge Road. It was a declination by the building inspector to try to enforce a violation of town code on the property. This was discussed. Well, it's not that, it's just that the building inspector doesn't have a standing on it.
Yeah, I spoke to Ben about this, and it originally arose from a community complaint that there was standing water in a pool, and there was a mosquito issue and health hazard. He went up there and inspected the property. The pool was no longer, whether they pumped it out or it was all in line or whatever happened, there's no longer standing water there. He did. Apparently there's a property management company that's maintaining it on behalf of the bank that is just holding the paper on it. And so he didn't deem there was no emergency exception that was required at that point. It was boarded up, it was secured, there's no other violations that he could write for at that point. And so as it stands right now, this is a closed issue until such time something else arises.
And this was introduced at the last town board meeting, so I don't think anything has changed since that,
No.
in terms of a complaint other than the the residents' inconvenience.
It seems like it's been,
Resolved?
this management company can't resolve it, so.
There's no standing, right, the building inspector doesn't have standing, that's what the letter indicates. You weren't here in the last meeting, that's
I
right.
understand.
Moving on to the Louis Berger agreement, is Mr. Pardon? You'd like to?
It's the agreement to test a couple of wells for soil contamination. We have a final contract here that we would like the supervisor to sign. It's for 2 wells, and it's approximately $1,941 for that testing in total for both wells, not for each. We had authorized 3,000 prior to that for 3 wells. But right now it's looking at just 2 of them. So I'd like to make a motion for the supervisor to sign that agreement immediately.
How much was that?
1941.
Okay.
Do we want to make an addendum to that, that should they require the services of a certified well drilling contractor, that the cost to complete would be $3,697?
I see that there too.
Otherwise, we're going to have to come back and make a motion, otherwise we can incorporate.
The board had previously authorized 3,000, so
Right.
you really just need to authorize the additional.
697.
Yeah.
697.
I'll make the motion, we authorize the additional, oh wait, I'm sorry. There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, so just add that to, I'll add to the motion that if there's an additional 600 that needs to be spent with regard to the scope of services, that we add an additional $700.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
We have I do not have the paperwork on the library legal fees. We did it, but we don't know, this was done a number of months ago, back in November, December. It wasn't, we thought we resolved it, but we don't have any subsequent paperwork for it. It's something which we're going to have to hold over unless, that being said, we have the reopening of the boathouse.
Can I ask Peter something? Peter, on the budget money with this, what's been done with the money with the library, was election, special election costs, Peter, do you know offhand or no? I'm just asking if you know, I'm not saying you should.
I'm not certain, I haven't been certain.
Was it total of 90, here's on the paper, it's a little less than that.
It appears that they're looking for us to pay their attorney fees.
Yep.
I thought it was for the
There's been a,
election. No,
yeah,
this is the
it was a cost for the election.
Wasn't the cost for the election supposed to be split between
It's supposed to be
the
shared.
library?
Yeah, but I don't, now what's been told to me is it never was done.
If I can address this.
Okay, go ahead.
I had spoken to Mr. Tellem about this, and this claim for the library, they're seeking for the town to pay attorney's fees. However, there was an agreement that was reached that the library would pay up to 50% of the cost of the special election to the town, with a maximum of $1,000. In my discussion with the town, I don't know that, or not seen anything that says we received that $1,000 from the village or the library. And, you know, there was no provision in that stipulation for attorney's fees, so there's nothing I've seen that would obligate the town to pay the library's attorney's fees. The only obligation was for the library to pay up to $1,000, which I believe it did reach that amount, to the town. And I don't know, as Mr. Martin can advise otherwise, that we ever received the $1,000.
I have no recollection of receiving that check from the library. And by the way, the town spent over $8,000 in legal fees of this issue.
On its own behalf,
On the town side.
yes.
So if the board wishes, if someone wants to make a motion to authorize our office to draft a letter to the library outlining the board's position that I just laid out, we can do that.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
You authorize the attorney to contact them, lay out the position of the town regarding this claim.
What's the exact position, Mr. Nugent?
That, in accordance with the stipulation, that they were to pay the town $1,000 towards the cost of the election, and there was no provision for the payment of attorney's fees by the town for the library's attorney's fees.
Right.
In other words, the stipulation speaks for itself. We'll send them a copy of that, and that was what was agreed to.
I have no problem sending that. I'll second it.
Call the question?
Aye. All right. But I just want to bring up one issue with the library thing that I thought was going to be discussed. I brought it up in a previous meeting at the end a month ago. There was a gentleman who asked me, he came to the meeting, he ran too late, he had to leave. He wanted to ask the town board to consider, aside from this agreement, he wanted to ask the town board to consider as a board, sharing in the cost to the library that has incurred on their costs, whether legal or otherwise, because of the special election. He asked me if the board would pay the whole thing. I said, I don't think there's much of a chance of that. I said, but maybe we'll make a compromise, the board might see fit, I don't know. And he was asking maybe you could pay half or a third or something. He had heard talk from the library that because of the situation of the special election, they were put under some undue budgetary stress and weren't able to financially burden up, and they weren't able to do certain things they normally do, and they were asking for some relief from the town. That's just what I was asked to bring up to the board.
Okay, I mean, again, I'll tell you, when I said stipulation, I said it was a judgment. There was a consent judgment in October of 2015, and the relevant parts of the library will reimburse the town for up to 50% of the costs incurred for printing ballots, renting voting machines, and election-related equipment up to a maximum of $1,000. After the town has presented valid proof reflecting payment for such charges, I don't know if that occurred, then there was nothing in there beyond that about attorney's fees. So if there's some other request, you know, that would differ from this judgment, you know, that's something that's up to the town board.
I know that. I understand what you're saying. This was a separate request from a member of the community who's involved with the library, and he wanted me to bring it to the board. He was going to speak. He hasn't been back. I just think it's something maybe before the next meeting, if the board wants to think about it or talk to the library about it on their own, you know, we can maybe, I don't think we can help them any further, but something to think about.
Well, if they put something in writing, or have they? Has the library put, or wherever you're talking to?
No, they haven't. There was going to be a request up at the mic, and because the meeting ran long, the person had to leave.
Okay.
All right, speak with the attorney, if they want to give us a letter requesting it, then we'll entertain it.
Well, I think we can set forth the town's positions as previously discussed, and then if they want to respond with some other requests, I'll give them that opportunity.
Thank you.
We have the senior citizen maintenance. Sorry, the boathouse reopening.
Yeah.
More than half of it's overseas.
I was asking that, I know Tony had asked for rules and regulations. We have stuff in our packet, rules and regulations. Also, the town handbook, which talks about different aspects of running departments and, you know, policies and procedures that the town has always run under. It was brought to my attention that this was something that probably, in hindsight, might have been done while we could have looked forward to running the boathouse. And I'm not saying which boats we would have used. I mean, we could have worked that out. But, you know, some kind of compromise to have the boathouse operating in some fashion to give some enjoyment to the town, provide some jobs for usually what is students in the town, local students, college and high school. And, you know, as we ran it, we would see the demand for what boats were needed, what boats would or would not be needed would be worked out by the town board. I understand some town board members didn't like certain boats, and everyone has their own opinion. Some of the members around the lake complained, and other members around that lake said they wanted the boats, and they wanted to bring their kids in. I know people personally who came up to me, and I can talk about them with the board members, I'm not putting names out in public, that said they wanted to take their kids and grandkids down and enjoy the swans of the boats and have some fun. And I just think the town made a little bit of a mistake by not even opening the boathouse at all. I think modifications and changes, I'll work with anyone. I'm not married to any one idea or any one boat. But I think we should have done something to operate the boathouse, because for $35,000 investment, we got $31,000 back. So for $4,000, you had a nice, in my opinion and many others, entertainment venue that I think it was 9,000 rides went out that last summer and spring and fall. So for 9,000 rides, whatever it was, whatever the number is, you know, I think it's something that a lot of people enjoy. And if you have, you know, and I'm not criticizing people who live around the lake, they enjoy the lake, they have a nice view of the lake and access to certain things, which is great. But the lake itself is paid for by the entire town. It's a town lake. It's not just the residents of the lake area or in the association thereof. So I don't think it's fair to everyone in the town, including anyone, I'll just put it that way, that they should pay taxes for things and not be able to use them. I think we made a mistake as a board doing it that way this year. And if there's any hope to open it, at least for maybe a month or so, maybe we could do something to get some people to enjoy the lake for a few weeks or a few weekends after that, because we can have it open on weekends while the weather's good. And maybe have, I know Tony had an issue with some of the boats as visual pollution. Maybe Tony, you work it out with the rest of the board, pick what boats you want to go out. I don't have no problem with that. You know, work something out. Because I think people would like, yeah, tugboats, right. But put something out there and have people have some fun, you know? And I know Rick and I talked about it, right? Rick said maybe a compromise could be worked out.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's do something.
It's just something else for people to do, and I think
Yeah.
when you have things for the family to do, it keeps the kids from getting in more issues.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And I grew up in this area, and something like this is something that the young people, I think, enjoy, and families enjoy it. And if there's an issue with out-of-state people, we'll change some of the rules up, make it different for access. But I don't think we should just not open it. But that's something I think the board should maybe, could we make I'm gonna make a motion that we reopen the boathouse for operation and put the boats that are used and the amounts and everything under review of the entire board to get set and put something out there for the public's enjoyment.
hold on a second, I mean, as
Okay.
good as that may sound, Jerry,
Well, I'm not saying it has to happen tomorrow.
here's the problem, it's
If
August.
we don't do it in 2 weeks, that's 2 more weeks gone.
It's August.
I know.
The problem was this, we had issues of where the money's gonna be kept, who's gonna be the manager, how many people hired. By the time we get all of this settled, it'll be September. It'll be time to be putting them back in. It's already August, even this weekend will be August, what?
13th.
Exactly, mid-August. So even if we move at it at the lightning speed of a snail, well, okay, the 28th or the 30th of August. And I'm serious, that's what, 2 weeks? You add 14 days, August is over, and then what do you have? Summer, September, and most of the kids are back in school, and you can't get, it's, I mean, we're too far into the season, it's almost over, it's,
Well,
I think, that's all I'm
I
saying.
know what you're saying, and you're right, you have a point. But here's the thing, you could start, I mean, many families go on vacation late in August, early in September, you know, before school starts, or they go to Disney after, certain people go back to school in different states, and then they go down there for a week. There's plenty of recreation weather that goes right through September into the early October sometimes when you have Indian summer. So my point is, if you put something together, we could have the boats cleaned and put in the water in a few days, at least some of them, and have a few people man it. Now, the issue that's a fallacy here is the money. The money was never kept overnight. The money was taken from the boathouse, I think 2 or 3 times a day. I talked to the person who ran it. They brought the money to the bank. Everything was done just like with any other operation in town. The money was not kept in an unsafe manner. I think it was $100 of petty cash might have been kept, or $80 at any one time, perhaps $80 overnight, if that was it. But I was told it was all taken back in and put in the bank. Sometimes procedures, like Tony said, should be better, but I don't think you should just not operate your stuff, because, and Tony, you know, to his credit, has done a lot of work with recreation. Just because you're having a problem with it or you want to change it, you shouldn't just stop the whole program. I've never really seen things done that way, and I don't think we should do that. I think it's a shame. But my point is, I'm going to make a motion to reopen the boathouse.
Folks, don't call out, please.
I'm going to make a motion to reopen the boathouse and put it under some kind of even limited operation that the whole board can agree on, how many boats go out, what boats go out, and at least get some recreation for the public. It could be done, you could be having people in the boats by probably the weekend. And I think that's a good thing for people. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. discussion.
Already
I don't
for
know.
discussion, right?
I don't know if you can do it by the weekend because we don't have the people hired.
I kind of agree with Rick that you gotta make sure you have.
But you don't have to have a lifeguard. No, that's not true. By law, you don't have to have a lifeguard. It's not a swimming operation. So anyone who works in the TMAC could actually go work, cutting hours at the TMAC, so we could get a few hours over at the boathouse for the students to work. Right? And we make money on it. I'm sorry, we almost break even on this operation.
Could I interject just one thing here? Jerry, I have to disagree with you about.
No, you don't.
About the money. Because right here, I'm looking at, because I did the deposits, and I'm looking at one of my deposits right now for Alex Smith that goes 629, 637, 172, 73, 73, 7575, total $2,439, and that was given to me in one single cash receipt, number 9065, when it was brought to my office.
What was that last one?
That was last year's way operation worked. So if somebody, I think, is giving you some misinformation.
Absolutely right, if that's the case. But my point is, it doesn't have to be that way.
Plus, I mean, Peter.
We made a point, Tony made a point to change it, and I agree with him.
Are you the only one authorized to make deposits?
No, good.
Okay.
Like Dial-A-Bus does their own deposits, the
Okay.
building
I just don't know,
department does.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
No,
so, making a deposit at the bank is something that just about anyone in the town can do.
Not a withdrawal.
Of course, they close at 4 o'clock these days, so if you were going to do daily deposits, somebody would have to be taken to a night drop.
That can be done.
I mean,
I just think it's worth a shot.
I disagree with Rick that by the time we get this up and going and hiring people and then deciding on what boats you're gonna put out and not put out, I think we're gonna lose a good portion of the summer. And I think a better way to go about it is to, because, while you're saying you don't need a lifeguard, I kind of.
Well, there's probably some lifeguards that we hired that we haven't put to work yet that some of them might still be
That's a
available.
possibility, but I think one of the other things is and Tony, when you were looking at how, like, some of the lakes up in Hampton State Park, they require that they have a boat to go, like a rescue boat, that they have a boat to go out when they get stranded to bring them back in. That was a capability that we never had here.
Can I tell you why? I'll tell you why. We looked into that, and no, the fire department, fire rescue were totally against it. They told us that the volunteer fire departments have control of that fire rescue. They did not want untrained personnel or going out there and mucking up the situation.
I agree with
That's
that.
why we did do it.
If someone's in distress,
We did look into it.
then it should be FDs
Yeah,
handle it.
absolutely.
But I'm talking about people that go up there and you go out there with the boats and they get caught up in the weeds, or they get hung up on the beach or something like that. That's not something where you want to get FD involved, and that's where something where our town employees that are working that dock should go out, take a boat, pull it out of there, and bring them back in.
But they have done that. Occasionally it has happened, they have gone out and assisted people in a non-life-threatening situation. There's no problems with this. It's almost like, with all due respect, it's almost like you're looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Now, when it comes to choice of boats, I know we bought and paid for boats, I think we should use them, but if you want to moderate that somehow, I've got no problem with that. I think the people in the town, a lot of them do have, like the Swans. Maybe we could put a few of them out and a few other boats out and just get something going. Because right now, you're taking away recreation from the town taxpayers, that everything, as far as the equipment's already been paid for. So you're not going to invest any money in equipment. Paying a student or young group of people a small wage to manage it, I don't think it's a big thing. I think it's something that is good for the town. But that's something I'm putting before the board.
I agree with you. The question becomes, is a staffing issue. How long does it take to be able to get the staff? How long does it take?
Why don't we just do it for weekends for the rest of the year?
Because it's gonna cost us more to.
How is it gonna cost? We already have the boats. You're just gonna pay the kids to take the information.
You gotta manage it.
And to clean the boats.
The only reason, if we were in the beginning of July, I'd agree with you, but right now it's mid-August. This weekend is mid-August. And all I'm saying, Jerry, is that the most we'll get is maybe 4 weekends, maybe.
Well, actually, you could get about 6 weekends, but that's September, because we do go right up until a certain date.
September and October, it's funny.
Beginning of October.
Once it snowed at the beginning of October. You know, this summer is almost over, that's the only thing I'm saying.
I didn't see them close the shore down this way.
No, but they already have people there. All I'm just saying, by the time we get people hired, it'll be another, 10 days? And that's 10 days, 7 to 10 days, do your background checks or whatever.
Well, you don't have to do background checks, we already have employees that can do it. We did the background checks. This is why it's almost, you're looking for a reason not to open it. And if there's a valid reason, I'll give you a credit that it is late in the season. That doesn't mean you have to lose the whole season. We'll still have a third of the season left.
Gentlemen, it's up to you. Whatever you want.
Vote on this already, will you?
Well, it's not just 75 people in one room, it's the whole town pays taxes, so they should be given the opportunity to have entertainment.
Folks, please, stop calling out, folks, just let us discuss this.
I just think, with all due respect, it was a mistake to shut it down. I think that Tony made a good point about looking into the operations of things and making them better, and I would support him on that. I just think we shouldn't shut things down and then I thought it would be done in a few weeks and we'd have the operations going, and I would have agreed with Tony and Mike on that, and Rick. But I think we made a mistake, we let it fly by. That's not my mistake. I wanted to open it right from the beginning. So I just don't see why we can't maybe try and salvage some of the season.
Jerry, we had fly-by policies in place. You had no oversight of the staff over there. You had no one prepping the staff. Who's going to prep the staff now prior to opening?
The woman who ran it for the last few years can prep the staff. She's always prepped the staff.
She's just working.
And a lot of those kids are repeats, they've already done the job.
She's working
overtime over at the theater.
It's like 12 hours.
How is she going to prep the staff and do it in a manner that would be conducive to the public safety? I think it's, plus the fact we have yet to receive numbers of what came in and went out
We did.
last year. We did?
I believe it was 35,000 to 31,000.
Yeah, but Jerry,
That was the number.
the manager you have.
We spent $4,000, but it was a good entertainment venue for the people.
I'm not arguing that point, Jerry. The point is that the manager now have a T-Man. She's now alone. She's doing all of those hours because the other manager's out on vacation. You can't burn your people out. You can't.
It's coming back, isn't it? All right,
I just think that, like,
can we make
this
an
will be my
attempt
last,
to open it?
this will be my
Can we
last
make an attempt to
comment.
open it?
What's that?
Can we at least make an attempt to open it for the weekends?
Just my last comment on it. Again, I just think to try to jump into it this late in the season would be, it just wouldn't be prudent because, again, it's a matter of coverage, hiring, trying to get this off the ground and do it in this amount of time just isn't gonna work. I'm all for doing it, and definitely, listen, I'm not don't like the dogs, don't like the swans. I think the more passive style boats, the rowboats, and maybe smaller paddle boats and things like that are a good thing, and I'm all for that. But I think, we plan on it, and next year we have a dedicated staff to it, someone that's, supervising them on site there, and we do it the right way, I don't think, listen, I know, Tony did do a lot of work, and he looked into it, and there were a lot of we all had a lot, well, I can say it, I can speak for other people. I had misgivings about the way that it was being ran and staffed, and I thought it was a liability to the town, the way it was being done. I think if we do it right, it won't be a liability to the town, and we'll, I think not having a manager on staff or someone there supervising the kids is in itself a liability, you know what I mean?
Okay, but then you get into a money issue.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that we figure out something for next year where, you hire someone that's maybe a better lifeguard, a manager out there, and they're the ones that, sorry about that we make responsible. I'm killing you when I hit that, George, I'm sorry. But, I just think that would be the better approach for the time being.
I understand your concept. Last thing I'll say is when it was voted to not open, it was basically shutting it down. And I know Tony did look into it. I didn't think, and I don't think a lot of people in the town felt, that it was going to be the whole summer. I think a lot of people figured with Tony and Mike and talking to the previous manager, and I've been told by the previous manager that no one talked to her about any of this. Now That's what I was told. So I don't see how you can investigate what was wrong with the management of something if you don't talk to the person who managed it. Now, that seems counterintuitive to me. But the last thing is when you did shut it down, I don't know why you didn't move a little faster to reopen it. And I hope, if this vote fails tonight, I hope that we do the work now to get it open next season at the very least, because we'll already have lost a whole season.
All right, I'm with you there.
Again, call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Nay.
Moving on, senior center maintenance.
Recently we had an issue with respect to the maintenance of the senior center HVAC unit. It hasn't been serviced in over 2 years. And that is the responsibility of our maintenance department. So Emery Morris asked if, since I'm the liaison, she asked if she could go out and get bids from some HVAC companies, which she did. She got 3 bids. One was from Armistead Mechanical, which is actually dated last year, but nothing was ever acted on. She got a bid from Best Mechanical and Plumbing and Heating, and she also got a bid from 914 Heating and Cooling. So I think it's in the best interest of the town, which these are placed in your mailboxes this afternoon, and I apologize, I was on vacation last week, so I did not get a chance to get the copies over to Christine. I think it's in the best interest that we act on this tonight, and that we take a long, hard look at possibly managing all the HVAC units in the town that we have versus allowing our maintenance department. I think they're overburdened with a lot of items, and I mean, this is one item of few that I've found in the town where we're mismanaging our properties.
What's the low number there?
So you have Armstead Mechanical Service was in at 1,580. Best Mechanical Plumbing and Heating is 1,460, and 914 Heating and Cooling is 1,200. I will say that I think we should give Anne Marie the right to hire who she would like here and get it done. I think that she's responsible enough that she will pick the lowest responsible bidder, and we can move forward with it.
With all due
Where are those
respect,
bids? Where are those bids?
They were in a separate package that was put in your mailboxes this afternoon.
I didn't get that till right. I went by town hall right before I got here.
It should have been in there.
It was. I didn't. I thought he meant something different.
No. What's that?
I thought he meant it was there earlier than that. Because
No. I got there about a little before noon.
Okay. I got there on my way here. You didn't. Yours? I think yours is still in the box.
So I will make a motion that we allow Henry Morris and the Senior Center to pick the maintenance agreement that will best suit the needs of the Senior Center.
Now, this is maintenance for what, heating and cooling system?
Heating and cooling.
Well, the only thing is now you're spending more money to maintain a building. Is there any way we could actually?
No, our maintenance is not certified to do this, nor do they have the time to do what needs to be done on the HVAC unit.
Did you talk to Eli before?
As far as I know, Amory did, and in the past, they've always been serviced by an outside entity.
Armistead is servicing almost all of the other HVAC units in the town.
And wasn't, as far as I know, it wasn't done under the correct procurement policy.
Hours of their, our procurement policy?
Our procurement policy.
What was the number on that one bid?
Which one?
Low bid?
Yeah.
Low bid?
1,200.
And the range is up to what, 1,900?
1580.
Are any of these union shops? I thought Amistad was a union shop. That was one of the nice incentives. I don't know.
Oh, not sure.
Yeah. No, I had asked whether or not any of these are union shops. It's something which we've always encouraged whenever possible.
Well, the two lower bids are from local companies. One's from Campbell Hall, one is from Monroe. And Armistead, I believe, is from New Jersey.
Now, is this something that,
Subject to prevailing wage, right?
yeah, now is this something that if other buildings, is every building gonna start picking their own contractors? That's the only thing.
No, what I'm saying is I think we should, as a town, have these three companies come in and review all the units. But she is concerned that this hasn't been taken care of in 2 years. And I got a feeling there's other HVAC units in our town that haven't been taken care of in 2 years. So,
Well, listen, I agree that we should authorize her to call the contractor of her choice and have this taken care of before it winds up being a bigger problem and costing us more money. But I definitely think we should be putting an RFP out for an AC heating company to come in and do everything in the town, especially if we're looking to take on the synagogue and some of the other, properties. I don't know, are they maintaining that now? Does anyone have any idea? Are they still responsible for maintaining the
no,
heating AC at the synagogue? Are we on the hook for that?
it's ours, I believe, because it's broken into two.
So it's 2 units up and down.
Yeah.
But that's still a considerable job. And listen, you gotta get someone that's qualified to do it. You try to do that in-house, and the person doesn't have the qualifications. I've seen it before. I managed a facility, and we tried to do it in-house with a guy that was not, qualified, and just wound up being a mess in the end. And we might have called in someone, and they got hit over the head for it, so.
In the
Go
past, the company that we last used before we got the maintenance department was C.R. Wolf. That's twice a year they would come in, and Bob from Highway would call and set up the appointments, and then come in and check the filters, everything all through the town. If the heat went down, that's who we called. I don't know how RFP goes out, but that's what we did in the past. We had one company that serviced all the buildings.
And just so you know, Emery did call C.R. Wolf. She had not received a serviceman. Well, I think she got a return call to try to schedule to come out.
Yeah, but like I said, Bob used to set us all up, and he'd call and say, okay, they're coming in and servicing.
Well, why don't can we do it to the end of the year, and by the end of the year, come up with another, put out the RFP? So that Emery hire them for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, that's all she wants to do.
Okay.
All right?
So it's to the end of 2016,
Yes.
Yep.
prorated as to how many months they do.
Sounds good.
Right.
Well, this is essentially one preventive maintenance inspection.
Yeah, we may have to put something out beforehand, because now we're gonna run into the rainy season, and we need some,
Absolutely.
it's gonna be something that we need to do, and otherwise,
Townwide.
people will be shivering before you know it, so.
Okay.
So we wanna,
I made the motion.
I'll second it.
Call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Next one is appoint an OIC officer in charge for the court attendance.
Okay, I'll address that. So going back to, I believe it was the end of June, the last meeting in June, we appointed Jack Brady provisional, and Mr. McQuaid said, well, why don't you put it out as an internal posting to see if we get other qualified applicants. So we did that, and it was out for, I believe, 20 days. There was no response to it. Rockwell posted it there in court. None of the other guys were interested in it. So,
As you predicted.
well, listen, again, Jack, by virtue of what he does for a living, he's a court officer, he's a sergeant in the courts. He's made some great changes over there already, procedural changes that are in conformance with OCA rules and regulations, and I think making him the permanent OIC would be a smart move on our part.
Well, I agree with you, and I also say that you were right in what you said. I just think you did the right thing also by doing the procedure correctly.
Absolutely.
And I think it was a good thing that we talked about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I mean, I was just saying, thanks for saying they put it out there, that was a good idea, so. Good, not to rush it.
You made the motion?
Yes. I'll make a motion that we appoint Jack Barry, the OIC for the court attendance for the Town Justice Court.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Aye. Next item is the Baldhill Estates Water Transportation request.
So this has been before us, and Mr. Nugent maybe jump in, would you like to jump in now?
I'll just jump in then.
Yeah, just jump on in, sir.
Yeah, the Baldhill Estates has been, I mean, they were before the board previously looking to see if the town had interest in establishing a water district. In the alternative, they are now wanting to pursue Water Transportation Corporation under the Transportation Corporation's law to establish a system, and that is something that was provided for in a court stipulation from prior proceedings, that the town agreed and stipulated that it would consent to the establishment of that transportation corporation. So the last conversation I had with Mr. Lithgow was that they were going to proceed with that, and we're looking for the town's position with respect to whether they were going to give that consent. I had inquired where things stood as far as their submissions, engineering and maps and other things, and Mr. Lithgow indicated they had submitted documents, but was not sure whether the town engineer had reviewed them or given the town board any opinion. So assuming the town board does not have interest in the water district, then it would just be a question of having an engineer review whatever was submitted, making sure the information is current, and then proceeding to give consent for the establishment of the Transportation Corporation.
Could you describe what a water transportation corporation is?
Basically, it's a private system that would be operated by, this corporation that would be created, and generally is run by the developer for specifically that site, as opposed to the water district, which would be town operated and may incorporate an area larger than the project area.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I have an issue that I was taught by the previous board members that I served with, that the problem happens when you give a private water corporation the run of the place. And some of them are excellent, I'm sure. But over the years, it's a private industry, and me being private industry, I know what can happen. 10, 20, 30 years down the road, sometimes they go either into financial distress, as Mike made the term earlier, or they lose interest in it, or whatever may happen, or someone passes away, and then the children or grandchildren, as has happened in Monroe, don't take up the case. And then the poor resident in our town is then left in a very dire situation, and we always, as a town, and Mr. Nugent can correct me, but what I was taught was we are then legally responsible to provide services for them at some point. And so my point is, I have a problem with private water districts in this town, in general. And I'm not blaming this group here, I don't know them, I have nothing to do with them, and I don't know their track history, record. But I have a problem in general with it.
How can we, as a town, take on another water district when we have water districts that are in distress presently that we have to get squared away?
I agree, most of the ones we've taken on have been ones that are distressed.
A lot of them, I don't know the exact number, I'm not going to quote it. Some of them have been previously private districts that, by the time they were put in our lap, they were worse off than we ever would have had.
14.
That's a problem. I hesitate in doing this.
Does this transportation...
And I don't know what the options are legally, I don't know.
Well, I was going to just touch on that point. Normally, you would have this discussion on whether you want to consent to that, but the town, through whatever litigation previously occurred with this property, has a court-ordered stipulation that says you will consent to the establishment of this water corporation. Now, however, the applicant did come to the town board, preferring, I believe, the water district and giving you a letter from Mr. Lithgow's firm stating forth, all the reasons why they believe that the water district was advantageous to the town. So, again, whether you wish to do that or not, if you choose not to do the water district, then, as long as they provide the submissions that are required under that court order, you're not going to be able to say, we're not consenting, because you've already agreed that you will consent under that stipulation. Go ahead, Mr. Mark.
Does this transportation corporation have, the way I understood, Mansion Ridge has a transportation corporation, and the way I understood it was set up is that that was there in case there was a problem and they had to default, then it would divert to the town's responsibility. That was part of what was in this transportation corporation legal agreement.
Yeah, that may be the case. I mean, they haven't established one yet.
I think that's the reason they do it this way, because otherwise they could just have a private water system, and I don't think they have to have a transportation corporation in order to set it up. I think the purpose of it is to establish a progression should something happen.
Yeah, the only enforceable right they have right now is the Water Transportation Corporation because of that court stipulation. So if the town does not want to consider the water district, then, we can tell them that we're going to have the engineer review what's been submitted, and if it's not complete or it needs to be updated, then they're going to need to do that before you would, discuss consent in any event.
What then, in brief terms, legally, what are our options now moving forward if we decide against, and I know you said there's a court stipulation,
Right.
but against the private end of it and maybe form a water district? What would our legal options be?
Well, it's not so much that you have a legal option to establish a water district, it's that the applicant came to the board, saying that they were fine with that option if the town created a water district, that they would, go along with whatever was decided on. The last discussion I had was that there was no response from the town at all in the water district, so they were going to proceed under what was provided to them in the court order, which was to establish the transportation corporation and then, obtain the consent of the town board. So basically your options are either to come back to the applicant and say, we would like to consider a water district, or submit your documents and, if they're sufficient, we'll comply with the court's order.
See, my position would be to go back to them and tell them that we would want to consider forming a water district. I think we should put it out there and then have our engineer do some due diligence on it and see what he thinks of the actual physical parameters of it.
I was going to say, maybe we need to make a motion to authorize the engineer to study the submissions by the developer, look at their infrastructure, tanks, wells, outputs, everything that goes in, that goes along with it, and give us his opinion as to whether this is adequate for the number of units that are there, the tank, what its main structure, whether it's, glass, concrete, all the, glass line, all the things that go along with it, and give us projections. It's a 25-year tank, if you replace it, it's going to be $500,000 or whatever, and just give us his opinion so we have at least an informed, good information to go on.
Would that include the possibility of us forming a water district as a
Well,
town?
I guess we look at what he gives us and then his kind of recommendations, and we make that decision.
Well, maybe as a suggestion, ask the engineer to review what's submitted for the Transportation Corporation, and also to review whether, in the engineer's opinion, the water district would be the better option, at least from, engineering standpoint for the town.
Right.
To look at that option if you want to have them do that.
Are we looking at an engineer, or are we looking at a hydrogeologist, or are we looking at both? And the reason I mention this is because if I understand correctly, a water transportation corporation may be sold. Is that correct?
Yes.
If I understand it correctly, the village of Kiris Joel purchased a extremely large aquifer in Blooming Grove not too long ago, and they now own this very robust aquifer. They purchased it from a water transportation corporation. Now KJ owns another source of water for their needs. Well, that's great for them. question becomes, the owner of the property, I believe the owner of the property is a gentleman who owns the property which is the largest single parcel in Curious Joel. He's got a gentleman named Mr. Bauer, and I believe that there are up to 1,600 permits for the property there. So when we look at the amount of, aggregated, the amount of water that's going to be consumed in that area between the 350,000 square foot commercial property which is projected, the alleged contamination of one of the main wells in Harriman, which is over by Target. When we look at all that development on both sides of 17, is this what we're looking for? Is we're looking for a water corporation that can be created and then sold for another municipality's benefit, or is it something which we need to look at in a more kind of protective way? Again, providing that we're respecting the rights of the developer, but more importantly, making sure that we maintain some type of continuity in supplying water for not just these projects aggregated, but for everybody in the surrounding area. We have one aquifer which is somehow being, the near-term use of it is going to have a profound impact based on Mr. Bauer's 1,600 permits over in Curious Joel, based on this property, and based on everything that you see up and down.
Hey, Mr.
Market
Doles,
Drive.
let's just kind of keep this narrowly focused at
Well,
Ball.
that's part of the
I know they're looking to form a larger one, and I get all that, but let's just keep this on whether we want to authorize the town engineer to review the engineering and see
But
what
part
we're
of it
at.
is, again, is it the engineering or the hydrogeologist? Because
Well, we may need a hydrogeologist
The
to look at their
hydrogeologist-
wells to see what the draws are and see if those draws are the same as what they're saying were done however many years ago. And that's obviously something we have
because
to look
SECA
at.
was done about 10 years ago.
Right, right.
So again,
Yes.
looking at old
So what are we
series,
discussing now?
bear with me, Rick.
No, I have, but I mean, we're getting too far off
The main point
course.
you're saying is to protect the water supplies to the town.
Exactly.
And I get it, I understand, and I think Mike gets that too.
Get the town engineer's opinion.
Yeah,
Let's, and
Let's
I'll make a motion now that we authorize the
I'll
town
second
engineer
it.
to review the engineering studies relevant to this standalone water system that they propose, and then come back to the board by the first meeting in September with recommendations. How's that sound?
Can you make that a possible hydrogeologist to be?
And if the services of a hydrogeologist are necessary to determine any part of the system, then so be it.
You want to give a not to exceed on that?
No, we don't know. That could be anywhere from a small undertaking to a.
I think it's important though.
I don't think it'll be that.
I'll second
Okay,
it.
all right, fine.
I'll second it.
I'm sure the initial stage of this is going to be reviewing submitted infrastructure, engineering studies that they've done already, and then if we have to move beyond that to authorize Mike for other.
The only other, well,
But listen, we're kind of up against a little bit of a time clock.
Yes.
Again, as
Yes.
Mr. Nugent's saying,
yes.
they can turn around at some point and
Yes.
say, hey, listen, you know what, we have the right for the water transportation district.
But there's other reasons why they might not want to do that too.
Well, yeah, listen, it's,
Right.
yeah, I know.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I think,
I'll
just,
second it.
the very first issue is going to be from the engineers. Are the
Yes.
submissions even sufficient, or do we require more from this applicant to
You're
try
calling
and
what,
review it?
about the gallons per minute drawdown?
Everything. Talk about all their documents. I don't know what they've submitted so far or what the engineer's seen, and it may be old and insufficient, so that's step one.
Because
They submitted, I remember when
Did
they
you-
were before us in February, they submitted pretty detailed plans that had, draw rates from the two wells, or one, there was really a one well system with a secondary backup. It had tank size,
I
construction.
there were 90 gallons a minute.
Yeah, they had that, and then they also had a projected use per residence, which I kind of,
You battled.
when their attorney, I believe it was Mr. Lithgow, was presenting it, I said, well, that 400 gallon number is not a valid number.
You did say that.
You're talking, this is I believe a condo type.
I think one of our residents said it was a lot more also.
Yeah, so, listen, I think the first thing is, let's get him to review the engineering studies, and then if we need additional, or even a second opinion at that point, we go down that road.
Yeah.
So we're informed before we jump in.
And we'll ask Mr. Edsel to give us also maybe price estimates on what he thinks it would cost to form a water district engineering-wise, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, I second it.
All right.
For discussion, one last thing, and that is for Mr. Edsel to look at this and the hydrogeologist to look at this, again, in a context of all of these other mega projects that are right there. You can't separate that whole area and just look at this one project, because you've got, again, 350,000 square foot commercial, you've got contamination of the aquifer already at one end of Locker Drive, as well as 1,600 units that are could go online whenever the developer wants over in Curious Joel. So it's great for the developer to be able to get this, but if it's going to mean that there's not going to be water for everyone and just for the developer, then we need to look at this in a different way and a more of an updated kind of seeker approach.
Well, I'm sure if we decide to take it, we can determine, we can specify what we're actually forming in that district. And that district doesn't necessarily have to include all those other, commercial developments, developments on the other side of 17 that might not be currently in it, and maybe that's a benefit, I don't know, that's something we'll have to determine.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
It is very obvious that United Monroe, the political group that shall not be named, has a great deal of power over this town board. Anything this political group didn't like, the Swan boats, T-Mac, faces a lot of sabotage. Oh, it's too late in the season, the Swans are abominations, swans. And hiring a kid for $9 an hour is endlessly scrutinized. Neither the boathouse nor the movie theater is badly managed. When one is looking to find fault, one usually has no trouble finding it. UM didn't like public safety, and the whole department is gone. To call public safety the supervisor's private security force is ridiculous. It's like saying the court officers are the judge's private security force. It makes no sense. On the other hand, if some departments need something, like the senior center, it is immediately brought to the board's attention with the utmost alacrity and a real sense of urgency. Meanwhile, Dial-A-Bus hasn't had a working Xerox machine for a year, and the boathouse will be closed all season. It's very, very clear that not all departments are equal. Moodna costs the town thousands and thousands of dollars in overtime, and no one cares. It's also obvious that United Monroe, the political group that shall not be named, still loves to accuse people without proof.
Isn't that political?
One of the founding members, I said political group that shall not be named.
All right, folks, please, Mr. Young.
Give her the same respect you get.
It's also obvious that United Monroe, PG that shall not be named, still loves to accuse without proof. One of the founding members said there was so much corruption in the town. Okay, I'll take the bait. Prove it. Also, all the accusations about being in LLCs. I too was accused by United Monroe of having an LLC. Well, let me tell you, that was news to me, having never been part of an LLC in my entire life. If someone has proof, bring it on. I would love to see it. I've said it before, this board governs through Facebook. And I've also said it before, Mike McGinn and Tony Cardone got the block vote from KJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Burke.
Dan Burke, private citizen. You're looking at the management problem at the theater, and it sits right here. The theater is managed by the town board. We have 5 equal members, each with a vote. So the decisions about the theater are made right here by the town board. That kind of structure it doesn't work, as anybody who's run a business knows. You need one person in charge, and you can't have it with 5 votes unless you come to some kind of an agreement on how to do it. In the last administration, this might be valuable. In the last administration, we had
I'm asking where the supervisor was, that's all.
Okay,
You can continue, we'll listen.
okay, where was the supervisor?
He had a gun,
He doesn't think it's valuable.
a medical issue, but he had a gun.
Okay.
Please continue.
I happen to be sensitive. Okay.
So,
So I'll respect your sensitivities.
and yours.
Okay. So we had a weekly meeting, or either once a week or every other week, and which all the principals were involved in it. And each member of the board was invited to it. Myself and Supervisor Doles were there at every meeting because we were off. When Jerry had a day off, he was there too. And,
So that was an illegal town meeting?
No, it wasn't. No. And Mr. Clone also showed interest in the theater. But that's the problem, and you got to find some way of overcoming that. And also, you're looking at the cost of fixing up 11 Stage Road and getting that back to where it can be used again. But that's a small piece of the larger town ownership of buildings. We have Eitzheim, you're there in a 2-year lease. You got to decide whether you're going to buy it or not. If you're going to buy it, you probably don't need 11 Stage Road, and probably the DeAngelis building. Now, the first floor of DeAngelis is going to be open, is going to be vacant. Is the court moving down there, or are they going to move to Eitzheim? And before you spend $25,000 on 11 Stage Road, make sure that it fits in with the larger plan. And among other buildings that the town owns, it's also the senior center and TMAC. And there's 3 theaters there, but also we have an operation upstairs, which is Channel 22, and 3 other rooms upstairs that can be used for town services if you happen to lease out the theaters. And just, I want to compliment Mr. Cardone for moving so quickly on the HVAC servicing. However, missing from that, the government moves slow, speakers speak too long, but there should have been a consultation with the head of the building and maintenance department. He reports to the town board, and there should have been a discussion with him, but I'm glad you moved quickly on it anyway.
There was discussion, Mrs. Morris did have discussion.
No, he reports to the town board. The discussion should have been between the head of the highway, head of the building and maintenance department and the town board.
Okay.
He might.
Time's up. Thank you,
Okay,
man.
he might report that he's done what you're
Does it make a big
paying
difference?
for. All right, thank
Matt
you very much.
Hollinger?
How you doing? Matt Hollinger, Village of Monroe. On a positive note, whoever's cutting the grass over at the defunct cemetery on 17M, I believe the town took that over. They're doing an excellent job. That's one thing, it's an issue I brought up, I guess, back when the cemetery was non-functioning anymore as a viable entity. And the town took it over, and they are doing an excellent job. I just want to, whoever's handling that, John, thank you.
Go to the ground.
Yeah, just let them know they're doing a good job over there, I noticed that. And, you know, I was sitting back here and I heard the thing about the movie theater, and I was thinking about, like, somebody mentioned that there's 2 managers and they're butting heads. There should be 1 manager and an assistant manager. Whichever one is deemed more competent or has more time or however the board sees fit, one should be in charge and held responsible for maintaining the hours and the log and then the board, when they make the monthly report to the board assesses whether they're doing a good job or not and should be removed from manager and the other one promoted or however that works. As in a business, the board is our representative in this business entity, and we, the taxpayers, are the investors. So it is up to the board then, that they have to make decisions as to who's the competent employee. So what I'm saying is, if the manager's not competent and can't function in that capacity, they have to be replaced, unfortunately. And that's the way a business works. And if we're going to look at this theater as a partnership between government and business, you can't be all subsidizing inadequacies. That's where the government always runs short in its ability to run a business, is that they let things go. We're empathetic, we can't fire this person because they're friends of so-and-so or whoever. So you can't look at it that way. You're our representative in this. We're demanding that this theater be run in a business-like fashion if you're going to maintain it off the tax rolls, because I'm a village resident, and as a service to the community. So let's treat it like a business, pick one manager out of the two. If they do a good job, they should be reporting to us what the board expects of them and what the public has come to expect of this new board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Egan?
Mike Egan, Town of Monroe resident. I'm disappointed the supervisor didn't stay because he really is the prime mover in the two topics I want to talk about. First of all, I want to say I, as a meeting attendee, resent that I sit here at each meeting and all these people do, and the people on TV, and we go through the same nonsense of the topic of the accessory apartments. I know the supervisor controls the agenda, but this is just idiotic and it's disrespectful and it's disingenuous. There are no accessory apartments going in. There is no crisis. There's a moratorium in the town. And these guys, Cardone and McGinn, with Mr. Cologne's support, have put that moratorium in place. And they did it because the previous members of the board did nothing to this topic for years. So it was a crisis, and they had to stop it before we were overrun. And that includes accessory apartments. So this ginning up of this topic every single board meeting is a disingenuous move made by the town supervisor for his own little self-interested politics. And it's nonsense, and I am resentful of it. Secondly, I sat here and I listened to the supervisor argue with the judge over something that seemed to be less than $18,000, money which didn't even come from the taxpayers. And it went on for 20 or 30 minutes. It was ridiculous. Then I heard a discussion went on for another 15 minutes about the running the rubber ducks on Round Lake. And if you believe the numbers, that totals $4,000 a year. And yet there's no discussion other than what Mr. Cardone brought up about trying to reduce staff at the movie theater of something that costs us over $50,000 every month. And it's cost us over $1.5 million since its purchase, and that's the movie theater. So what are we doing? And why are we doing it? And so I'll ask this board, please focus on the movie theater soon. It's real money, and that money could be doing great things in this town. It could be buying land. It could be buying land to set it aside as open, undevelopable land. Put it aside. Protect this for our children and our grandchildren. And oh, by the way, it was my understanding we were supposed to have a P&L at the end of every quarter for the movie theater. It's now almost 40 days since the end of the quarter. Please give us a P&L. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alice Howard?
Hi, my name is Alan Sally. I just got here, so I wasn't here for the meeting, and I wasn't going to speak tonight, but there's something that really bothers me. Well, there's a lot of things that bother me, but there was an article submitted to the Photo News with Harley Dole's name on it, and so I'm assuming he wrote it. It says Harley Dole is determining the fate of Monroe. And Harley Dole talks about annexation, and it goes on, and it sounds like segregation to me. And I'm sorry Harley Dole isn't here today, because I wanted to ask him if, by way of this article, he's referring to segregation. It says here something, KJ housing crisis is now our housing crisis. Monroe, Woodbury, Blooming Grove, and Bloomingburg are facing the stark reality that the additional 20,000 KJ residents, which would happen something almost immediately if annexation was approved, is happening, and happening without annexation. Where? Not in KJ, but far more worrisome in Monroe and surrounding towns. I wanted to ask Harley Doles when was it that anyone was prevented from living in the town of Monroe, in Bloomingburg, in Woodbury, in Blooming Grove, in Harriman, in Goshen, in Chester, and wherever? When was anybody prevented from living anywhere they wanted, as long as they could afford it, and as long as they respect to the local laws, as far as zoning and planning? That kind of concerns me. Is he talking about segregation? Is he talking about segregating who? The people that live in KJ? Or does that extend to other ethnic groups, other nationalities, other religions? Would he be in favor of separating anything else? Maybe, I don't know. So that's my question, and I'm wondering if it's a legal issue, if our town board and town attorney has any kind of response, or am I being paranoid here? Is Harley Dole's purposely trying to throw the town under the bus with these remarks? And can our town attorney or town council do anything about it? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody else?
That's all.
Ward Rower, private citizen, thank you. In due respect to Mike Egan, grant money is taxpayers' money. And I don't care, because you called it grant, does not mean it fell out of the sky. It's frivolous money that we can spend any way we want. As elected officials, our fundamental job is to spend every tax dollar, whether it's grant money or any other kind of tax dollars, the most efficient way possible. So it's not frivolous exercise to check that out. It also respectfully disagree with Mr. Egan on repealing the accessory tax dwelling law, because if these LLCs are waived, it means they're exempt from the moratorium, means they can apply for the now existing accessory tax dwelling law and double and triple their density. They've already told us that. That's my problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Sherney?
I'll answer to
Oh, do you want to, we want to answer? Okay.
because they just finished, and some people will leave some.
We'll keep it
Yeah,
to, keep it 2 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
3 minutes.
2.
Yeah? KJ block vote, that's always an issue in town when the residents brought it up. When some people get it, it's bad, other people get it, it's okay. I've noticed that for years now, and I find it to be highly hypocritical, and I think it's also, someone was talking about it, just recently from up here. I don't think it's any secret that this town is basically 3 block votes, and that's the way it runs. It's run that way now for a little while, a couple of elections, and I don't see any change coming soon, although there might be. People have a right to block vote. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, that's kind of like a block vote too, so I understand the process. Doesn't make one side good, one side bad, although some people portray it that way. I never did. TMAC, I think Dan had a point, maybe we could use the space even better, and it's used well now. John C. DeAndros is an issue because it's going to be halfway uninhabited soon, by the end of September, hopefully. Matt, thanks for the compliment to the building maintenance group. I appreciate that. I'll forward that. And also, I agree with you and Tony about the management being better at TMAC. But I also do say, when you call that a business, I'll always argue the point. It's a government function. It's just like the boathouse, the library in Smith Clove. You're not supposed to make a profit. You're supposed to run it efficiently. Mike Egan, I voted twice for the moratorium. I mean, every time someone brings up a good point of a vote on the board, I'm always left out. I feel like I'm getting a complex here. It's not right. I voted for it twice. And also, I voted against the 507 annexation. I voted against giving KJ the right to review the 507. I'm never included in anything. And that's a shame. Also, I was, I guess, accused of not getting up for work like the other guys here on the board with me now in a recent article in the paper. I get up probably as earlier than any of them. And we all work and do our thing. So to say that only 3 people work is ridiculous, but typical. Also, when you brought up the point, Mike's good with figures, and he's been helpful with the theater money issues with Peter, and I appreciate that. But grant money is taxpayer money, and we can't be looking at one as government money and one as the other. I think there's just a procedural issue that's got to be looked at with that money, and once that's straightened out, it's going to go forward. I don't see a problem with that. Lots of things bother me too. 2 minutes isn't enough to go into it, but knowing Harley like I do, it's something where, you know, he has his own opinions. He did write letters to the paper. That's not a ghost writer. It's not someone else writing it. Thank you, Rick. I'm giving you 31 now. Okay, when he writes these things, that's his opinion. He's not speaking for the whole board. He happens to be a member of the board. If you know Harley's history with civil rights and his family's history with civil rights, for you to accuse him of segregation, I think is horrible and first of all, mean-spirited and ill-informed. But I'm not going to try and say you're not entitled to your opinion, even though people tell me I'm not. But it's not Harley's way to be a segregationist. I think he's talking about the zoning. Someone brought up here proper zoning. I think he's talking about the proper zoning. And the last comment I'll make is, you're not always fair with Harley, and we've come to expect that. Thank you.
You get a rubber.
All right, go back and forth, please.
Rick?
Thank you.
Mike?
Nope, I'm good to go.
Okay, John? John?
All right, good evening. I do have a couple updates here just to talk about real quick before I move on to the good stuff, I guess you could say. Lombardo update for the Mine Road pipe job, underground drainage. Survey has been completed. Basically, once I get the hard copy of that, the lawyer will have that, and we'll draft up the easement, of course, and hopefully have this project started before the middle of September, I'm hoping. Olga's water line, that's off of Reed Road and the backside of Skyview Hills. Talking to Jack and as well as Peter, they both feel that we don't need a easement for that particular job. I don't have a problem bringing my equipment on that property without an easement, but I would like to see something drafted up at least to protect us, some sort of a contract or something like that, of what our job scope is going to be then.
So do we need a release from the homeowner?
Yeah, I would like to see a release and some sort of a scope of work of what we're going to accomplish for her, and that's it. This way we can protect ourselves and don't have to come back to fix stuff that, you know, may not be in our scope of work. And that's something that the board's going to have to decide.
I'll make a motion to authorize the attorney to draw up a release and an agreement for the water line. He's probably gonna have to consult with you, John.
Yeah, probably Jack, Sherry, and Peter as well.
I'll second it.
And that's to protect the town from litigation?
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Liability, yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
All right, and last, oh, not last, one more thing, two more things actually, sorry. The sewer update right now, I do have the two pump stations that are in. I'm just waiting on the main tank as well as the control panels in as well. So once the main tank is in, I'll coordinate everything with the Dial-A-Bus Senior Center before we install it, so we do that right and get that done properly. Last but not least, myself and Councilman Cardone went up and met with Senator Larkin about 2 weeks ago approximately. Explained to him about our sweeper problem. Everybody that's in here that's left knows that we blew up our sweeper.
By accident.
By accident, of course. Senator Larkin is a true gentleman, I must say that. Anyway, this letter is confirmed that I have secured agreement in the amount of $275,000 for the town of Monroe Highway Department to purchase a street sweeper. So right now we do have grant monies coming in. That is taxpayer money award. We understand that, and it will be used for the sweeper. So
I'd like to commend yourself and Tony for doing that. Nice job.
I do have copies of this if anybody needs a copy.
Good job.
It was John's initiating of the project. I was the tag along for looks.
So we went from having looking at used sweepers from, Bulgaria to being able to buy a new one, so that's great, John. Yeah. Good work.
Nice work, John.
Good work, Chairman and Tony. Not that there's anything wrong with used sweepers from Bulgaria. Political disclaimer out there.
Hey, I just made one little quick comment.
Again?
Mr. Larkin did a good job, and I also say it's a good thing it's an election year.
Well, listen, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Okay, gonna pass over A, go to B, Rick.
B, e-cycling, approval to have Advanced Recovery Inc. pick up assorted obsolete e-waste recycle in accordance with all federal standard guidelines. The approximate cost, $15,000.
Okay, town board, I presented this to you. By state law now, towns over, I believe it's over a certain size, or it's just towns in general, have to do this. The last time we did an e-cycling was in 2014, and it cost the town $12,000. So I can tell you right now, 3 to 4 times a week I get a phone call, Marielle, what am I supposed to do with the computers? What am I supposed to do with the TVs? And the county will no longer and does not have to take them. So we need to set this up. We need to, I've spoke with Peter at budget time. We're going to have something set up the next year. And with John, tire day, a big recycling day once a year. But we need to do something this year. Spoke with Peter and he's found some money. I'm asking that you guys approve this so I can set a date for sometime maybe September this year to have a recycling so residents can get rid of their TVs and everything.
That'll be at Highway, right, John? So I think what we do is normally we set up a big dumpster.
Yeah, dumpster will go there.
Actually,
They'll come with a trailer truck.
the
Oh, that's
cocaine,
for the,
that's
yeah.
for the tire day. For this, the advanced recovery comes in with their own trucks, their own personnel, and they weigh the residents' equipment and log it, and then they give us a certificate and everything that it's probably been destroyed, that it's the proper weight, and then we pay the bill. That's basically it.
And that's required, right?
It is state law
We
now.
gotta do it.
So we have to do it. Is there any thing where, and I'm not questioning the process you've gone through, with the price being 15 grand, is there any way that should be lowered, or that's still?
Oh, that's already been reduced.
Okay.
You see the price per pound and stuff,
Okay.
that's already been reduced.
The funniest thing is at one time we used to get paid.
Yes.
We just
Yes.
Now we have to pay for it, so.
Supply and demand.
That's a town-wide charge now, right? It has to be an A fund.
Townwide.
It's an on-pay charge, so.
It's the entire town can do
It's gonna be for the entire town, and I probably, myself and probably one of my deputies will be there checking driver's licenses to make sure that it's town of Monroe residents only.
Okay, so you'll set a date for that?
I'll set a date for that,
So,
and
do we have to vote on
you have to approve the money.
Gentlemen, I'd like to make that motion to approve $15,000 so that the town can set a date for e-waste pickup. Townwide.
it. I'll second it. One thing, Marion, are you gonna send out to the villages notices of what's going on?
Once I set the date, it'll be advertised in the photo news, the newsletter, and I will let the village clerks all know that we are
Okay.
holding this when and where.
Okay, great.
Okay, call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess the next question, this is, Peter, where's the money coming from? Is that?
I have to take a look at it again, but we need to, we need to set up a new line in the APS. And the code is for, I think it's going to be other public safety. And I'll get back to you at the next meeting for the exact funding of that line.
Okay. Next item is the Hudson Valley Film Festival security provided by town. Page 4 of 7 in the agreement says that the town has to provide 1 security guard per shift, 2 shifts per day during the festival hours, and act as a liaison between TMAC management and Hudson Valley security staff. As of today, we don't have insurance and or tickets from the Hudson Valley Film Festival. The tickets are key to us because that's where we're making money. And I mean, this is, you know, coming down to the wire. And
There's another issue with alcohol sales.
yep, and there's another issue where they're permitted to serve beer and wine, but I don't know if we have to pull the plug on this or what we have to do here.
I think in the morning, Tony will know better.
Okay. All right, so as soon as you hear from Simon, if you could let us know.
What's the date on this?
26th through the 28th of August.
So our next meeting is the 22nd.
22nd.
That's kind of.
So what are we gonna do as far as, if we were to allocate, to have security if this goes on, which I hope it does, would we, you know, we wouldn't have to pay them unless they actually work security, right?
Right.
So, I mean, do we have to make a motion, or
Are we gonna get the court people?
to hire someone for the day?
You know, it's, back when I was involved with this, when I was still with the liaisons, I said to him, to Simon, excuse me, that, you know, security would be on them, that we wouldn't be providing it, or they would be paying our security people. So the contracts going back and forth and not being involved as a liaison anymore, I missed that. That was a verbal that we had. Obviously, we signed to be able to abide by it. So I guess what it's going to come down to is, if we just provide security there, we have to figure out either what's that?
They have security, they have rigs, so we could just pay them to.
Well, that's an option. I mean, that's certainly an option. I mean, it would probably be cheaper, but I would be reluctant to say, all right, let's take the code officers and now put them in the theater.
Is this unarmed security?
Well, it would, typically speaking, at the TMAC, it was unarmed.
Yeah.
So it should be unarmed. It would be a whole lot less money for us, even if they had Brigger or somebody else in there.
We have, and this is just thought process, we have some people who are already background checked and everything else that did do unarmed security for us. Would there be any way to reach out to them and see if they could do a couple of shifts?
I mean, it's possible we can pay them on a 1099 or something like that.
Most of them are town residents.
If it goes forward, we could probably do that. It would be fine also.
They already got the background.
I think we should reach out and pay the former security people on the 1099,
$14 an hour.
pay them 14, 15 an hour.
It would certainly be cheaper than going armed and paying our guys.
So then,
And plus it would be a whole.
should we make that
It
proposal?
wouldn't interfere with their job.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I don't think that's a big, do we have to make a motion on that, Mr. Nugent? Or it's already in the contract?
Contract.
Yeah, so it doesn't
Great for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So George, let us know what goes on.
Yeah, we have 3 people who used to work for us that are very good, that we'd like to use.
Okay.
All right, so if that's the case, then we'll just pay them on 1099 to cover it.
Tom, do they have to get in touch with the town clerk?
George, you got in touch with them?
Yeah.
All right, have them get a hold of the town. All right, very good.
Okay. Item D, the traffic study, I think we should table until the comprehensive plan is completed.
What's this about, Tom?
Just the traffic study, since it's old, it's 14 years old, to the Rye Hill corridor and traffic, water, sewage.
Right.
That's being incorporated into the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so it's being handled.
Yep.
Okay.
TMAC, I don't know what this is
Oh.
other than looking to set a fee for the new residence card.
Yeah, if they lose it.
For replacement if they lose it. And I guess Justin was looking for the board to set that fee.
Yes.
I mean,
He has, He has all of the residence cards printed and ready to go, and he was told that he couldn't send them out because the letter says that if you lose the card, there may be a fee charged to get a new card.
Okay, so we set the
How much
fee.
are the cars a piece? They're not, they don't have, there's no stripping, right?
There's
They're just-
There is a strip.
Oh, there's a stripping, sorry, so they're probably
Probably about,
about $250 to $5 a piece? All right, so we charge 10 then.
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is the fee now?
Because it's
We don't
not,
have to
listen,
say
it's not just the cost of the card, it's also the cost of the employee, the time, the machine, the whole 9 yards.
So what do you want to
I'm
call
making
it?
another comparison you might not like, but does does the village park, I know sometimes, I know the village park, is what is the fee with that, Tom?
When I was there last, I wanna say it was $8, so
All right, so
$10.
$10
$10,
sounds good.
All right.
$10 fee.
So
I'll make a motion that we set the replacement of lost resident cards for the T-Mac to be $10 per card.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Call the question?
All right.
All right.
Okay. The MS4,
We also have the letter. There's 2 items under there. One is to authorize the letter, the second one is the replacement fee.
oh,
So I'm
okay.
looking to authorize that letter to be sent out that was attached.
So I'll make a motion for that letter to be sent out, explaining the $10 fee for replacement of the lost resident card.
And then we can send out all the ID cards.
All the cards.
All the cards.
Okay.
Is that a separate motion?
Yep.
I'll second.
You're saying, what did you say, Rick?
To send, to let them send out
Yeah.
the cards.
Letter
also.
with the
With the letter.
$10 fee.
Right.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Jerry seconded it. Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. MS4, the acceptance form for Professional Square. I believe that Edsel has stated his approval on this. It says the email is to confirm that our office reviewed SWIP and have no objection to the stormwater design as presented. Should also be noted that the applicant made modifications during the approval process to address planning board concerns. It's our recommendation that you sign and return the form to Lincoln Tully. So, based on that, I would make a motion that the board authorizes the supervisor to sign the SWIP for Professional Square.
I'll second that for discussion.
Question on that is, does that have anything to do with, and I know we have differences with commercial and residential, that has nothing to do with any kind of issue precedent with the moratorium, does it, Mr. Nugent?
It's commercial.
I know it is, but I'm just saying.
It's stormwater.
Yeah,
So there's no way they can tie anything to that.
No, none of the commercial.
No, I understand it's different, but just legally, okay. Thank you.
We have to vote on it?
No question.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I don't, there's no paper on it, so I don't know.
What about the bus?
Well, wait, so we got
Gee,
the dog shelter, there's no paperwork on it, so we'll have to skip over that.
Now, let me ask you a question. With the pre-rabies vaccination for control officers, I don't see any paper either, but that's kind of a safety issue. Do we want to approve it? Pending
are they are they asking to be vaccinated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it seems to be for them, the
Yes.
workers.
Really?
Yes. There's vaccines for a lot of stuff today that they're.
No, I had no idea that humans could be.
I mean, if it's a safety issue, I don't know if we should hold off on it.
Let's get some paperwork.
Between now and the next meeting.
Let's get some paperwork.
There's no paperwork.
I know.
They haven't gotten bit this far, so let's wait.
I don't know.
Is there something, Peter, is this something that you've come across like budget line?
Are they biting the dog?
How much is the rabies shot?
It's free, it's a dog, you get it to the right place.
Let's keep it
It
moving.
said it's been on the agenda for 3 months, so you can put it on to read through that.
Okay.
All right, well, we just get an idea, just to say, you know, I'd like to know more about it.
If someone knocks on my door, they're like frothing at the mouth, I'm sending you out.
Yeah.
Okay, next item, time sale record to approve the town of Monroe enter into an agreement with the record to lock in a rate for a 13 by 25, 6-page ad. Says it would bring the cost down to $145.73. I don't know what the cost was, there's no paperwork here, so.
Now, what is this?
I have something here.
And I don't, and my issue is, this is written up for the Times Herald Record, and the letter I just read came from the Strauss News. Let's just table this to next meeting.
Yeah. Next meeting.
This guy puts so much stuff on here, it's a waste of time. I agree with you, Mr. Egan.
L&M,
Taxpayers Protection Act,
let's just skip down to L&M, please.
want to go down to L&M, yeah.
It's 11 o'clock. I don't want to.
Okay, so we'll table I'll make a motion, we table I, J, and K, till we get some explanation on.
What about that?
I'll second it.
Call the question?
Aye.
Alright, you wanna do the same with G&H, or we already did that?
We already did that.
We already
Just did that.
Alright.
All right, so L. Request,
Overtime.
what's that?
Overtime. They want to pay us, they want us to pay for overtime that's already been done.
This is dial-a-bus?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like Mr. Vega is owed an hour and a half in overtime from 6/6 to cover a ride from Ritchie. Overtime to be approved for Lisa Tutini to drive PTSI training in Syracuse.
No way.
How can you get paid overtime if you're getting paid mileage?
You get paid mileage.
Okay, well, let me just say this. With respect to Mr. Vega, I have the timesheet from that week. He was paid that hour and a half. Unfortunately, the date that's on here, that Mrs. Tutini lists, is incorrect. He was paid, he was paid on the 9th, not the 6th. And on the 6th, he only worked 8 hours.
So you're saying the overtime was actually on the 9th?
Yeah, but he was paid for it.
He was already paid for it? 1.5 hours?
Yep.
So you pay. So that's done. M.
M. Hold on a second here.
One part-time
Go
driver.
back to my paperwork. All right.
Let me,
Hiring of drivers. Excuse me.
Don't have anything else here.
is that the part-timer?
Based on name
I mean, I'm
Is
looking
it
at,
just to okay the hiring?
I see this here and it says, and if it's related to that, to M, it says, one part-time driver is retiring on 8/4/2016.
Right.
Need to replace your part-time driver. And then it says, would like to bring on a current part-time driver to full-time status. Would like to hire a new part-time driver. And my only thing is if you have a part-timer leaving, then let me just hire another part-timer to replace the part-timer that's leaving instead of a full-timer and then another part-timer.
Right. At least do that and then find out what the other issue is. Because it's not clearly.
Yeah, I mean, if a part-timer to replace a part-timer is fine, but not a full-timer and then a part-timer, so.
It's not on budget.
So,
Well, the
What's that?
part-timer is the part-timer.
Not, if she's adding another full-time person, that's
It's not
not in the budget right
yeah.
now. You
Part-timer
have to
is
amend
not
the budget.
Does anybody have the memo referenced or no? There are references in memo, there's nothing attached.
Well, I think if we just okay her to hire the new part-time driver when the other one leaves, I don't think that hurts the budget, because that's the same, same thing. I'll make a motion that we okay the dial-a-bus request to go through the process of starting to hire a part-time driver to replace the part-time driver who leaves, going through all the HR requirements and background checks and driver's license checks and all that.
Just so we're straight here. This says that the driver's retiring as of 8/4. And we got an email today that the driver is retiring as of August 11th, which is Thursday. So I don't,
Change the date.
I don't know what to believe in.
Maybe they hung on because they didn't want to leave us hanging.
I know, but it's not, if you submit a retirement letter, and then you submit in a renege letter, and then
I don't
you
know if there's
submit another retirement letter?
There might be a window with the state with the retirement situation.
You can always go back to retirement.
Yeah, you can actually come back.
There's really no,
What's that?
I think with the part-time, there's really no issue with that, with the
No.
state of New York.
It's probably a little flexible.
Yeah.
Do I have a
Well, she can
second?
certainly start the process, but again, it's gonna
Okay.
come back to the board to
Absolutely.
authorize it, you know?
Do I have a second to start the process?
Second.
Discussion.
Call the discussion?
Yeah, just start the process and then it's gotta be okay eventually.
All right. Call the question.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
T.
Hold on.
This,
Monbassia Park, S. All right, let's go through this in order. P, the ambulance contract, we can't approve that for the supervisor to sign because it's still in the works, correct, Mr. Nugent?
Yeah, there's a bunch of issues with that. We need some, the board's got to determine whether or not you want to establish rules and regulations for the collection of fees, and where those fees are going, how they're being disposed of, so there's some work needs to be done.
Okay. Q, building department, there's a request for $200 for both Mr. Maldonado and Mrs. Sallow to attend in-service training and new ICC code updates. He'll be going on September 14th. So I'll make a motion to approve that $200 for training for Mr. Maldonado and Mrs. Sallow.
$200?
Yes.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Skip that, march down the sewers.
Yeah, we tabled that. Yep.
We did?
Yeah, we tabled that and the movement takeover. Okay, then there's another request for Mr. Maldonado for $200 for both him and Mrs. Sallow on October 12th. In-service training, other codes updated.
I'll make the motion.
No, wait, hold on one second. I'm
That's
sorry.
October 12th.
I'm sorry, that's
Different date.
a different date.
Different
Okay,
date.
yep, for October 12th.
I'll make the motion to
All right, I'll second it.
them for $200 for both for that October 12th education.
Okay. Call the question?
Aye.
And one final one from November 2nd to November 4th, $550 for each. Required 2016 code enforcement update course. Update to newly adopted ICC 2015 codes. From 2015 codes, I probably should say. So I'll make a motion to approve that. $550 for each of them from November 2nd to November 4th.
I'll second.
Second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know what these town of Monroe legal fees are, there's no paperwork with it.
Yeah, I don't see.
Yeah, that was my issue. I'll go over real quick. I know we had recently, in the recent past, we had a court situation here in the town, and I would, two parts to this. One, I would like to know how much it costs the town and our legal fees for that issue with the planning board, and also I wanted to find out how much it costs the individual works for the town for their legal fees, and I would, once we get that information, and I'm not expecting a vote tonight, I think it would behoove us in the interest of fair play that we look to pay the legal fees, because what happens is, as I said originally when it started, is you could force anyone off any board in any town or village if you put them under some kind of a legal situation, which is basically unprecedented, and then you have a court situation with the town taxpayers paying one end, and an individual who is a working person can't keep up. And I think that makes people, and I do know that person did resign, and when you put someone into a situation of monetary strain, let's just say hypothetically, it was a job that made $6,000 and you put them under $2,000-3,000 worth of legal fees, most people are just gonna throw up their hands and walk away, even though they really did a good job. So I think that we should look at this at the next meeting. I'll get the numbers together, and we'll see what the legal fees were for the town and the individual, and maybe we could do something nice for somebody. The proper thing, because it's not, that's my opinion, and I said that right from the beginning, and I just want to follow up on it, and then it'll be a board decision. But I mean, if you are in that position as a board member or any kind of board in any town or village, you could be pushed out of anything if they get a lawyer on you and you can't keep up with the municipality. So that's why I want to look at it. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Town of Monbassia Park. I think there's some changes that have to be made. Number one, in how that park is maintained. Presently, we have too many issues there because of the non-maintenance of the sprinkler system over the last 2 years. I was up there with John to try to repair, when they were trying to repair some of the issues, and it's become evident that the capability of our maintenance department is not well versed in the sprinkler area or the pump house. So I think we have to look at alternatives there. And I also think that we should take and I've spoken to one of the park commissioners, that we should take the process for filing for use of the park and put it in the hands of Smith Grove Park. Let them do the process. They've been doing it for years. They know what goes on. They will work with within our parameters, and yet the money will still end up coming to the town.
As far as scheduling what, Tony?
As far as scheduling the use of Monbassia Park or Faber Farm. So if somebody comes and applies for use of those facilities, everything will be run through Smith Clove. We will get a report on it. Peter has said that he can set up a line item for deposits, which will be returned, and a line item for the fees.
And the only problem I have with that, I talked to John about that also, it's an interesting idea. The problem is you sort of, I've always had a problem with Smith Grove Park with the town, and even though I'm a village resident, that the town, has no kind of lease agreement. I know there's issues with being put on the deed, but there's no kind of long-term guarantees that for all the money that the town taxpayers invest in that park, that will always be part of it. And I think that, according to the British with Hong Kong, maybe a 99-year lease, and we'll see what happens after that. We won't see it, but someone else will. So when you give up your sovereignty over scheduling your parks to a parks commission, which is half us and half the village, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just, it takes the town's ability to run it away from the town board and people that we put in place, as far as the town park people. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Maybe it's something we should think about.
I mean, listen, I think...
Because we don't even have a full registered town volunteers on that commission now. We're too shy, right? We only have 3. Well, I think we're shy in that from what I last heard. I'm not saying you won't get filled, but we're missing, I think, 2 volunteers. And we have 3 town and, what, 5 village?
I think there's 4 and 4.
Is it 4?
I think it's 4 and 4.
Okay. It had been 3 for a while.
Briar Cliff is in the, yeah, right. Briar is in the village, and then you maybe right, maybe it's 3 and 5.
Can I just ask something? If you guys do this, my question is records, paperwork. I would ask that the originals would come to me, and whoever's going to do it down there to make photocopies, but all originals, once a complete package is done, it comes to me.
Okay, yeah, I don't think they would have a problem doing that, and I just think with the efficiency that they handle Smith Clove, it will make, they will do that at Monbassia and Faber Farm.
Okay, good.
I mean, listen, I think the commission does a great job, and as is evident from recent anniversary ceremony that we were at, and you
Yeah.
can see, just, I mean, listen, you know, that park is the pride of the town, village, whatever you want to say, and I think they do a good job at that, and some of these other issues, you know, that you discussed, Jerry, some maybe things we could work out, you know.
That's even coming from previous boards, that discussion.
Listen,
Yeah.
I will tell you that those sprinkler systems at Smith Clove have been there for 10 years on fields 1 and 2, and I believe 8 on field 3. There's never been a crack in it. And
Might be different soil compositions, you know. I'm not arguing the point, I'm just saying.
doesn't, you come up with an excuse for everything.
No, you come up with excuses, I come up with reasons. I mean, we can go back and forth all night like that.
Listen,
No,
all
I'm just saying,
I'm
there might be
saying
reasons
is,
for it.
We're getting close to coming up to all night.
there's 4, there's been, John, 3 or 4 cracks.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the cracks, I mean, we fixed one area right now to where you have the soccer fields, you're able to possibly use your sprinkler system on soccer fields. You have a building that was built that, you have major water leaks in that, you have to replace, because everything froze up. Let's just face it, it froze up is what happened. So if that building froze up and the sprinklers froze up, it wasn't lit properly.
Right.
You know, and that's all there,
I know,
that's all there is to it.
with soil
There's no,
composition.
No, I'm just saying there's always.
you know, and the reason being, even the pump house down below froze up. You know, and it ruined the pump, so this is, you got some major work ahead of you before you can even get your bathrooms up ready to go. I mean, let's put it that way, you know. I'm not saying, you know, tens
But
of
who
thousands.
built the building that we're talking about?
Building was built by highway department.
Right, now who built the one in Smith Clove? Who built that system?
Who built the
Who built
system?
the system you're talking about?
The system was, the one system was built by Nat Nouveau's company. That was on field 3, and the other 2 were built by a company out of Westchester.
Okay, and who built the system in the park we're doing?
As far as McCary's landscape.
The water.
McCary's landscape.
What?
McCary's
Right.
landscape.
Maybe they didn't do as good a job as they should.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Listen, I think this is a maintenance issue, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And-
That's all it comes
and I'm
down
not, listen,
No, I know.
not pointing fingers and whatever, but it's clear that the system wasn't blown out, it wasn't drained. And this was, you know, and it's one of these things when it slipped through the
And
cracks,
prior-
or people did not have, were not directed to do it, or whatever, but it's something that,
When did
you've got a great field up there and a great
No, it is
facility,
nice.
and now it's, you
I'm
know,
not saying that.
Prior to-
a few years.
It's been going on for years now.
Yeah, prior to 2014, when it was controlled by, what was the gentleman's name?
Frank Smith.
Frank Smith. There were no problems.
But there was. There actually was problems with the water. There's been problems with that water for years and years. I'm guaranteed.
There was cracks in it?
Absolutely. They had problems getting water to that place for many years.
Okay.
I'm not saying Frank Smith was at fault. I'm
not saying
Frank Smith.
problems getting water to it, but were there cracks and issues?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And they didn't know where they were coming from.
So
And we've
you're-
been asking,
so how-
I've been asking both Frank Smith, Eloy, and Jack for years now to fix it. Because in my business, you dig it up, you fix it. And I do that kind of stuff. But nothing's been done to my satisfaction. But it's one of those things that gets talked about, it gets directed to be done, and then nothing happens.
So
And it's been very frustrating.
when was the last time the water was running in the sprinkler system?
Properly, it's been several years. I don't think it's just been.
Maybe 3?
I think it's more
What's
than
that?
It's more than
More
that.
than 3 years?
It's more than that. Absolutely. It's been a problem for many years.
I don't think so.
Since I've been on the board, it's
John,
been a problem for a while.
I know for a fact when Jimmy Hebner was doing it, I don't think there was any leaks there. We built the park, you know, I mean, we put a lot of pride and a lot of energy and a lot of sweat and tears in that park.
There's nothing.
So when Jimmy Hebner was up there, he flushed the system every year.
Listen, I used to play soccer, not play, but I coached soccer up there. It was nice up until last year. The coach was probably 13, 14, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's
I've been
rare.
asking guys to fix it for so many years now, it's almost like beating your head against the wall. And I hope it gets fixed. I think it's a big problem.
All right, I will take it under my guidance with John, and we will get it taken care of.
Who's gonna manage the park?
Well, that's the other question, because I was thinking if, what'd you say? It's a whole other meeting?
That is a whole nother
Yeah.
meeting.
All right.
Now, moving right along.
Pass
what are
on,
we
we'll
gonna
pass
do?
on that, 'cause I know you have to get up early, Councilman Colon.
No, I don't, I mean,
Councilman
I get
McLean
up
doesn't work.
you know.
That'll be in the paper next week.
But,
Okay,
let's do this before tomorrow.
yep,
People wanna get out of here early, 1 o'clock in the
Okay.
morning.
But we T and V together since they're both.
well, yeah, T and V, yeah, but the only thing with V is, I believe V came in after the deadline of Tuesday, August 2nd.
No.
No, V is actually lacking a verified petition. It's just a letter, and we had corresponded, sent the letter back to them advising that a petition needed to be filed. So, I mean, if the board is going to set a public hearing, it would have to be conditioned on receipt. I would recommend within 10 days of a verified petition, or you can adjourn or table it, but right now you just have a letter for that application.
For V?
For V?
V is in Victor.
What about T?
T, I believe we have at least a verified submission. It's not, very thorough, but there is a verification on it, so you can accept that one.
Okay, so, would be prudent then to set a hardship hearing date for Streethaven and Ann Fatin Udia Kamwar.
Say that 3 times.
You like that?
You did well.
Yeah, if you want, you could set them both for the same date, just that we would make the item V as in Victor subject to a receipt of a verified petition within 10 days, otherwise, the public hearing would not go forward.
Within 10 days of setting the date or of the date?
I'm saying 10 days from today.
Today, okay.
Do we have to receive the
Okay.
petition, then you can use,
Okay.
whatever public hearing date you're gonna set now.
Okay.
And if we don't receive it, we just won't put that on.
I don't have V here.
It's in the revised one.
V is in the revised packet, and
Yeah.
Christine, I was at the office, Christine emailed this out to everybody on August 4th.
So you want to do the first one first, T?
Yeah.
What date are we looking at? What falls within the parameters, Mr. Nugent?
You got up to 40 days, right?
This one was August 1st.
See, the other one came in August 4th, and the cutoff is,
August 20, right around August 26th. From the day you extended the moratorium, they have 30 days.
no, what I'm saying is Chesapeake,
Yeah.
okay? Right, is that, yeah, Chesapeake Holdings,
Mm-hmm.
they're asking to get on for a hardship variance, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the procedure that we put in place in January at the reorg meeting was that anybody who wanted to be on an agenda had to have the item in the Tuesday prior to. This was sent out the Tuesday prior to.
Okay.
I'm just
So-
trying to be fair. It didn't get into the supervisor's office till August 3rd.
But your moratorium law states that once the petition comes to me, you have 10 days. You have to set the public hearing for 10 days. And we did this with the
Okay.
other petitions also. We just put them on the agenda right from the floor that night, some of them.
Okay. I stand corrected. So then,
So we're either looking at, what, 8/22 or September 8th?
Well, it basically says within 10 days of receipt, she causes the public hearing notice to be published no less than 20 days after the application is received, but no event more than 40 days. So basically, it would actually be, I think of both of these, only the first one could be the 22nd, whichever was received. Would you say August 1st?
Yeah.
And that's item T on the agenda?
Item T.
So that one could be set for August 22nd, the other one can't be set, has to be set after the 22nd, whatever your next meeting is.
It's September 12th. September 12th. Can we do them both on the 12th, or is that? more days, and are we going over?
I still think you'd fit it.
I think we're still within the 40
You
days.
wanna split them up, Mike?
No, I think we should just do them both on the
Do 'em
12th.
both?
If we're within the 40
Yeah, I think
days.
that's gonna be kind of close, that is 40, I believe. So I would set this one on the 22nd, the other one on the September date.
So T on 8/22, and then V on
12.
9/12.
Yes, subject to receipt of the verified petition on that one.
Okay, so the motion is to set Udia Kamora for 8/22 at 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, you already have the continuation of the LLC.
Okay, so 7:15?
7:15, we're gonna get back in 15 minutes. That's funny.
Well, I mean, the LLC was just basically voting on, because we have, it's just a matter of, it had to be on our, you know,
Right.
in our hands for 8 days.
All right, as long as nobody makes any comments.
That should be
Rick, there's no guaranteeing that.
That's why I said
That's
I'm
on
less
death
than
and
15
taxes, you know
minutes.
someone's gonna do it.
Okay,
Isn't that right, Ken?
7:15.
so 7:15 on 8/22. We have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And V, we will set for
12, September 12th.
September 12th, provided they submit in the next,
In 10 days,
10 days.
verified petition.
okay. And who will be addressing the fact that they have to submit a verified petition?
I'll reach out to their counsel.
Okay.
What time you wanna make that?
Do we have anything on the 12th presently?
Okay, we have a conflict because when we scheduled the town board meetings, we were having our town board meetings when we
At the
did
TMAC.
at TMAC. So, there is an election, so we can't use the senior center on the 12th. Okay, because the election machines, we do not use the senior center the night before an election.
T-Mac?
The Legion.
Would anyone wanna use T-Mac? For a meeting?
What's that?
Would you wanna use T-Mac for that meeting?
Okay, so I'll notice it that we're moving the venue to TMAC.
Can I get popcorn?
7 PM? Is that the time, Tony?
7 p.m.
7 PM?
What?
How about the infrastructure thing?
That's me. So are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good with that.
all right. Do we vote?
Okay, then can you do?
Aye.
Okay.
Call it. Aye? Are you
Oh, so we're gonna make a motion, all right, so
I'll make the motion.
you made the motion?
I'll make the motion,
Second.
September 12th, 7 PM for over Kaler,
Where?
at the T-Mac at 7 PM,
What theater?
for the set the public hearing.
What theater?
Studio 6.
Studio?
Studio 6,
Thank you.
at the T-Mac.
You second it?
Second it.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Then can you just make a motion to approve us to change the venue?
Make a motion that we approve the venue for September 12th
For the town board meeting.
for the town board meeting
Do the election.
as the TMAC due to elections.
Second.
Second, call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You?
Listen, during the month of July and then into August, we had quite a few issues with our water districts, including mine and some other people here in the room. It seems to me, and I've been on this board for 7 months now, it seems a lot longer, that we have to, I think we've got to get a better handle on where we are with these water districts, right? I think we put a lot of Band-Aids on things, and I think we need a comprehensive review of these water districts by an outside entity that can tell us, this is where they are, this is where they stand, these are the improvements that you may or may not need, and then hire a grant writer to go out there and get that environmental facility funds money to do the upgrades, you know what I mean? Because I think the way we're going right now, and I'm not saying anything bad about the people that currently maintain it, that's not what it's about, but I think it's just, they're like firemen, they're responding to the breakdowns and the emergencies, and then when you talk to them, because I've been out there at some, they said, well, I told the town board 3 years ago that you needed heaters in this room because it freezes up, or you need generators, or whatever, or you need a new pump, or you need seals. And then you'll hear, well, they said that when this development goes in,
They're gonna pay for it.
but there's nothing on paper about any of this. And so I think we, and especially with all this potential development coming down the pike and how that's gonna interact with these systems and infrastructure, I think we gotta go out, put a request for, proposal or an RFQ request for qualifications to have an outside company come in and give us a comprehensive review of our water systems, so that we know as a board, as a town, taxpayers, where we all stand and where we go forward with that as far as grants and everything else. So I guess the first stage in the process would be putting out a request for qualifications, and that is finding a company that that would do this, whether it be an engineering firm or one that specializes in this. I'm sure they're out there. There's an engineering firm and company that specializes in everything. Identifying them, giving them, have them give us back a, basically kind of have that RFQ have a scope of work, and then them come back to us and say, all right, to do that scope of work, this is what we cost. And then we decide as a board whether we want to go forward with that. And I just think it's something we got to do. Because right now, like I said, and I don't mind responding to the calls, and somebody does, no, we won't have. Listen, we get the calls, that's our job, whether it's 4th of July night or whatever it is, you got it, it's a little part of the bit, part of the part of the role. And, but the one thing I see is we don't know what we have and where everything stands. So I guess I'm gonna make a motion that we, prepare an RFQ, would that be correct?
Yeah, I think in this circumstance, it would be an RFQ, since you're looking to see, who's qualified, and then you'll determine the scope of the work.
Is there a, yeah,
I'll second.
did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as far as who would prepare an RFQ, that's the next question, and I guess.
Was that, I'm just.
All right,
What was the motion exactly, so I know?
All right, so, I will.
Great idea.
It's kind of like a two-parter. Because, right, so it's good, we need to do an RFQ, and then the question is, who do we get to do the RFQ? And the natural, I guess, Mark Edsel, our town engineer, so we can ask him to do an RFQ, explain to him what we want, and I'm sure he can give us, he could write the RFQ.
He has Mike Weeks, who does water in that office, who's very familiar, actually, with
Well,
all the town water systems.
I'm not saying that they should be the ones that do it, but I just think that we need something.
But who writes the RFQ?
But we need someone to write the
I think
RFQ first.
The RFQ is not, the same as, it doesn't require the same level of detail as an RFP, where basically what you need to know is what do you want, this person to do. The town is looking for a professional to do the following, and it sounds like you're talking about analysis and things and review of the systems. I think the only detail you need to know is what do you want, how much detail do you want reviewed with respect to infrastructure, the tanks, the systems, the connections. So I don't think it's going to be that complicated for an RFQ. Probably the town engineer could put it together. It's not a conflict per se, like an RFP would be, because you're just asking for qualifications. So they really could assist in the preparation and submit, because they're not going to be listing criteria. You're just saying, this is what we want to do. What are your qualifications to do this job? So I don't see a problem with even the town engineer assisting and then putting themselves in, if they're qualified.
That makes sense.
So I guess here's my proposal, or here's my motion. Make a motion that that the town prepare an RFQ to address, perform a comprehensive review of our water districts, and that we ask the town engineer to prepare the RFQ for publication in, I guess, our publications and maybe trade magazines to get it out there. All right, so that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Good
Any
idea.
discussion?
Good idea.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Then we have to set a separate motion for price, Mike?
Well, I think once we get the The RFP is gonna be the price thing.
No, I'm just saying the RFQ does cost a couple of bucks, wouldn't you wanna do anything?
Oh,
with
that, you mean for Mark to prepare it?
That's not his normal scope of work.
Well, you know what, why don't I give him a call and I'll find out what it is, or we can set a price, I'll say, let's set a price of not to exceed 3,000, is that reasonable? You think
You're gonna
that's,
pay that out of the water administration also.
what's that?
You'll pay that out of water administration, you don't pay it out of the beef. Only the water districts pay for it.
Right.
Well, as long as it's spread out evenly amongst the whole.
Yeah, I know, but the districts have to pay for it.
Right. Well, that's fine,
Put out the
Yeah.
unincorporated town.
that's fine. So we'll say not to exceed three grand?
Not to exceed 3.
I'll second it.
All right, well,
Call the question?
Aye. I have one thing that is time sensitive, one issue, that's a legitimate issue. The solar project. I know Mr. Nugent's been talking back and forth with the company, and he's gotten emails. I've got some of them myself, and then gone to board members also. The on-force solar, there's some paperwork that's got to be moved forward so that we can, move the project forward and not lose money. As it's going now, we're running a little late on our deadlines, and I think that it's been a little slower than it should have been without any specific criticism of any of us. But I think that we have to move it forward, and I would like to ask the attorney to go over the paperwork that's been submitted, and so the
Great,
next
that's already been done. I was advised today by on-force that they received the signed documents from the town already.
today.
Yeah, that was this morning.
Okay, I
You
did
did that the last time.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue was the resolution, but I
Right, I see
advised them
that.
today that there's been, we still have to do secret on this thing before that balancing resolution could be adopted, and I learned today that no secret has been done at all, so that's gonna be the next step that has to be taken care of. But that contract document was signed and executed.
Okay, now this drafting the resolution, we can't do that right now?
We have the resolution drafted, but the town board can't adopt that balancing test until secret is done first. And I explained that to Mr. Weiss and Mr. Fite, if that's how you pronounce it
Any
today.
feedback on when that's gonna be moving forward?
Well, the EAF, the documents have to be submitted. I don't even know at this point that there's any application, and they need to submit a building permit application to start that process. I don't think they've done that.
Right, what about the immunity situation with the town?
That all has to come after secret.
Okay.
Secret has to be done first.
Okay, I just wanna ask you, and I know you're busy, but I would ask you to, within your power and your firm's ability, because I know one of the reasons you were hired, you're a large firm, with municipal experience. I think it's very important for the taxpayer, because it saves taxpayer money. It's a green project, and it's also jobs for local people. That as things come forth, that we expedite them as quickly as we can, not to delay it, because the building season is limited in some aspects. And I think it's important for us to get this thing moving as quickly as on our end. I'm not saying you're not, I'm just saying we.
Yeah, no, and I explained to them, look, the applicant for secret can do the documents themselves, which most do, in order to move it along. So
Okay.
I'll give them that option, that's the fastest way to get it
Okay.
done, is they prepare it, submit it to the town board, and then you review it.
Okay.
But like I say, I did some, kind of discussions and research today. I spoke to Mike Donnelly and found out that, there had been no secret. And as far as I know, there's no application, so there really should be something submitted to the town so that we can bring it before us to, do the secret. And maybe that's just a building permit application, but something should be submitted.
Okay.
Besides just the financial stuff that we received. But like I say, we've had a discussion, exchanged emails today, so it's moving, and they're aware of what I
Okay,
just told
I
you.
wasn't aware of what happened today, but thank you.
You got it.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Jerry, one other quick thing, I had forwarded to you the hazard mitigation information, which you're in charge of.
Actually, that was handed off to Harley's staff a long time ago, because I didn't get the time off I thought I was gonna get in the spring. So I gave it to Harley and his office staff, and I said I couldn't handle that. You have to work with everything else I was doing.
Okay.
That was months ago, I pushed that over.
Harley obviously didn't know that last meeting.
I didn't, what?
Harley didn't know that last meeting.
No, he should have.
Yeah, so I will forward the email to him.
Okay.
Actually, there is a motion, it was Councilman McQuaid and Highway Superintendent Shirley was on that team.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I had a
I
copy
put
of
my
the
end.
I had a copy of the motion last meeting.
No, I put my end over with the full-time staff, because I felt it was better to have them do it than me when I was more busy, thankfully, than I thought I would be.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna have to go into executive session.
Yeah, you know, there's just one
Discuss.
last thing, 556 Lakes Road, that
Yes.
and
Yep.
this
Yeah.
possible condemnation
I
proceedings.
think
for this-
I think
this-
it'll be pretty quick. So we'll make a motion, go into executive session.
Second.
Okay. Call the question?
Aye.
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for our council to direct a communication to the town building inspector regarding an unsafe building that is in question. I should have named that.
No, at this point, you know,
Address or no?
you can, it doesn't matter, I mean, the report's public, so it's.
Okay, so it's in the town of Monroe, 556 Lakes Road.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
So moved. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second,
I'll make it. Motion to adjourn.
second,
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
all right,
Good morning, everybody.
good night.
Thank you.